Well, thank you. Yeah, man. Well, my name's Darren. Yeah, Darren. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, up here in Western Canada, and it is actually minus 33 outside right now. So yeah, but it's dry. It's a dry cold. Yeah, it's supposed to be minus 45 this weekend. Good times. Oh, Vegas can't. I'm going to Vegas in February. Can't come fast enough.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's actually funny listening to you. Yeah, this my journey is very similar. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, it's about 7 or 8 years that I've done this. It was right. COVID was 2020, so yeah, about 2018. So yeah,
Yeah.
about 8 years, yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, growing up, of course, graduated in '93, and back
Same here.
then, yeah, obviously no internet or anything like that, so everything was AM, FM radio. I always wanted to be a radio guy. Not that I wanted to do I didn't want to be I wasn't like music's fine, but I'm not some music head or anything like that. But it was just like, well, and that was the other thing, being in Saskatoon, Western Canada and stuff. Like we didn't have sports radio. I'd never heard of sports radio. We didn't have it, so it was like that. I wanted that concept. I mean, we had like a community TV show, almost like Wayne's World, but it was like this nerdy guy that did the sports, and he was terrible. But it was like, but that was our sort of community TV kind of radio. That was like as much sports radio as we were going to get was this clown. So, but I always wanted to do sports radio. I didn't know how or where to go to do it or whatever. So, but anyway, I interned at a radio station when I was in grade 12, and back then AM FM, right? So it was like the rock station, the AM rock station, and got to know those guys, and cut a few ads, and did that, and they showed me the process and everything. And I mean, it's completely archaic now, but I mean,
Yeah.
back then, it was cutting edge rock station AM. Everything was on like 8 tracks and stuff. It was crazy when you think about it now, but it was just like to find your voice and everything. And it was like I never really had a like for TV. I was as oddly enough as I'm sitting here saying it, I've never really thought about it this way, but it was just always radio. I never thought of TV. Like, oh, I got to be on Sports Center or TSN, Sports Desk. Like that was never. That's interesting. I never thought of that. It was always about radio. Maybe I
Yeah.
got a face for radio or something. I guess I don't know, but I was just like, and much more gravitated like to talk radio.
Yeah.
It's like I always talk. I always could talk, and it was like it's what others have said isn't me saying it, but they're like, oh, you're funny and you have a personality. You should. This is something you should get into. And I remember the radio guys are like really supportive of it, the DJs there, but at the same time, I mean, and I knew I wasn't going to go to university. I wasn't a school guy. I was like, just get through high school and let's get to work, right? And it
Yeah.
was, and I started talking to them, and then the realization set in. It's like, okay, I'll go to radio school, the broadcast school, and we have a really good one actually here in Saskatoon. And I did it, and I'll do that. And I can't remember how long it was, 6 months, a year, whatever it was. Get through that, and then I'll be the morning drive guy in Saskatoon after that for the next 30 years. Oh, this will be great. And of course, they're just start laughing at me. They're like, morning drive, dude, you're going to be up in like armpit nowhere doing midnight to 8 AM country station or something. And I'm like, well, do you make any money? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, no. And it's like, you got to pay your dues, man. And, maybe, and someone's got to like your sound and your vibe. And then maybe, and then you go to Calgary or Toronto or Vancouver, like a big market, and that's where you make money. You don't make money in Saskatoon, right? So it was like, and of course, this is all, what do you mean? And so
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to wherever so I never pursued it. Yeah. So I just started working, right? Labor and whatever, and did all that, and, got my gig, and now, I work for the government and solid waste, and it's a good job. I mean, I have the government gig, so it's like I have no complaints, but it worked out. But I always had that in me. I always had the radio itch, right? Like always, that, and yeah, and like you said, podcasting started coming around, and it was like, you mean I could just go buy a microphone at Staples and plug it in, and because I've referenced it on my show lots over the years. Like I always call podcasting this is my pretend radio show. And
Yeah.
it was just like, that's always what I viewed it as. And it was like, And I was just like, well, what am I going to talk about? And yeah, same thing. I had the passion for the hockey fights, and I was always a hockey guy. And it was like, I had all these fight DVDs and whatever. And, the fried chicken fight site and the hockeyfights.com site. And I was always a member of those. And I remember just thinking and I remember just looking at all these like podcasting when it kind of, and like no one was talking about it. Like the hockey, like the fighting part of hockey. I mean, there was a million hockey podcasts, but nobody's talking about fighting. And I'm just like, well, I can do that. And I'm like, why don't I do that? And then what really got me was, I want to say it was Tony Twist. Somebody had Tony Twist on their show. I can't remember even what show it was. And I'm like, oh, this will be great. And they're like, oh, we're going to talk about Twister and his career and all this. And I'm like, I love me some Tony Twist, right? So I'm like, oh, okay. So I tune into the podcast wholeheartedly, ready to go and listen to Twister. They ask him like 2 fight questions. And then after that, they're like, yeah, so Tony, what do you think of the Blues power play this year? And that was it. And I remember listening to it, and I'm like, are you shitting me? I'm like, who gives a shit? Why are we asking Tony Twist about the Blues power play from last night? Who cares? I'm like, ask him about fighting Link Gates in junior and then playing and fighting him again in the IHL, and ask him about the Peoria Rivermen. They retired his number and like all this. And I'm just doing the whole fight nerd thing. I'm losing my shit in my car.
Right.
Like, ask him something, right? And it's like, and then right then and there, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start my own show. And I'm going to interview these guys, and I'm going to ask them the questions I want to ask them and what I know other fight fans want to ask. Because being around those communities and those message boards for so long, I know what people want to listen. What if I have so and so on? What questions they want me to ask them, right? So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that, and there you go. So I'm like, all right. So I started this. Went to Staples. Literally went to Staples. Bought a $45 microphone. Funny enough, 600 episodes later, still got the same one. The old Snowball, the tripod's broken on it, but from a couple of moves, but it still works. And I'm rolling along, and I'm at how many episodes? About 488 episodes with the Fourth Line Voice, and it'd be over 500 because when I initially started, a friend of mine was a web designer, and that fourthlinevoice.com, I had a website, and I had about 50 episodes, and then the website got crashed, and I lost all of them.
Oh, no.
That was really disheartening. And I was just like, oh, and I was kind of starting to get some momentum on social media with it and stuff. And am I getting too long-winded here, man? I'm sorry.
No. This is what it's for. This is what it's for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, okay, I got to backtrack a little bit. So before I started the podcast, I was never big. Like I had a phone. I was not a big social media guy. This was about 2012, 2013. I mean, everyone's got Facebook. I mean, I had a Facebook account, but I really wasn't on there. I wasn't taking pictures of my supper and posting it. And, I wasn't that guy on Facebook. I was just like, whatever. Yeah. I didn't really post that much. My wife loves it, but whatever. And Twitter, that's when Twitter really started going. My buddies are telling me all about Twitter. Oh, you got to get on Twitter. It's hilarious and all this. And I'm like, whatever. I get on there and, yeah, okay, it's okay. But I'm like, I wasn't on social media really. A guy I worked with, mechanic I worked with, he started talking to me, and he's like, he wanted to get into hockey podcasting, and he was a big fight guy, former player and all this, former junior guy. And he's just like, we should do a podcast. And at the time I was like, what's a podcast? I didn't know. Right. And he explains it to me. I'm like, oh, it's a radio show. And he's like, well, yeah, kind of. But he's like, yeah, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I guess, yeah, that sounds all right. He's like, yeah, no, we should do that. I'm like, okay, well, let's start. He's like, well, no, because he goes, if we just start now, he goes, no one's going to listen because no one's going to know who we are. So I'm like, okay, well, how do we get people to know what do we take on a classified, get a billboard? Like, how would we get people to know? He goes, well, we got to get on Twitter. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'll do all that. Because he was like really big into Twitter. I'm like, all right. And he's like, well, what do you want to call it? And I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, well, what are we going to talk about? And he goes, well, we'll just make it a hockey fight account. And we'll just put, he goes, you got all those old pictures saved and all those videos and stuff. He goes, just start putting up pictures on the account. And I'm like, of what? He goes, like fighters and stuff. He goes, you have all those pictures you saved. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, just start posting those. I'm like, and what's that going to do? He goes, oh, people will love it. Trust me. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of started getting into it a little bit. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, and if you notice that one of the players is on, one of the ex-players has a Twitter account, he goes, tag him and then put the picture on there. He'll lose his shit. And I'm like, what, tag people? I'm like, what? I'm like, so he came over one night and he showed on my old desktop, he's showing me, okay, this is what we got to do. And he created the account and everything. And I'm like, or before he did, he's like, okay, well, what are we going to call it? And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, we'll talk about hockey fighters and stuff. He goes, we'll be those guys. He goes, yeah, because no one really talks about them. So I was just like, well, let's be their, like, we'll be like their voice or something. And I'm like, well, they played on the fourth line. We'll be the fourth line voice. And he's like, yeah, that's awesome. He goes, that's a great name. And I'm like, okay. So that's what he did. He created the fourth line voice Twitter account. And he would post stuff, and then I would just randomly post pictures and tag guys. And next thing we know, the account starts growing, and it's like, because it takes a while, but also 100 people, 300, 500. And it was like, all right, this is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And then I started getting into it. And when I started seeing it, I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of fun. And then you'd get the response from the ex-players. And they'd be like, hey, man, you'd ask them a question, and they'd reply. And I'm like, okay, this is really, okay, now this is getting kind of cool, because now there's some interaction and stuff. And I mean, so it was like, and this is about 2016, 2017. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to go. And then the best thing I did, and then it's funny, we were going to get it all set up and ready to go. He got transferred. My buddy got transferred, Kevin, and he's just like, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, well, whatever. And I had kind of maybe given up on it a little bit, but I was like, okay. So off he went. So now I'm by myself. I got the account, and I'm just kind of like, all right. I just kind of kept going with the account. Didn't really think about podcasting just yet, but I was like, grow the account, get some mileage, and then, maybe we'll come out with something. And the best thing I did was I did an online tournament, and I called it the Bob Probert Invitational. And it was like, and it was right, and it was funny because I was talking to a guy, a follower. I hate using that word, but that's what they're called on Twitter, followers. Mm-hmm. And he said, I was talking about March Madness basketball tournament. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there one night talking, we're drinking. It's like Saturday night. I was half in the bag, and we were like DMing back and forth, these showing pictures and talking about fight tapes and stuff. And I was talking about March Madness, and I'm like, oh, my bracket's already burned and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, oh, it'd be hilarious. He goes, if you did like a March Madness, but with like fighters. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, on Twitter, you can do that voting thing. He goes, just do March Madness, but with old fighters. Mm. I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be funny. And I, whatever. I didn't think anything of it. Next morning, I get up and I look at my phone. Well, he's already done it. He's like, sent me the bracket. He's like, yeah, you got to do this. His name's Taylor, if he's listed, Taylor. And I was just like, I guess. I'm like, all right. So, yeah, I ended up doing these brackets that you could vote on, and it blew up. It blew up. The hashtag Bob Probert Invitational was trending on Twitter. It was like, I ended up getting probably 4,000 followers from it.
Wow.
Like, it just blew up.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it was crazy. And everybody was voting. Like, everything would have 1,000 votes, and you get ex-players in there doing it. And like, it became huge. And then from there, I was like, now's the time to do the podcast. I'm like, all right. So then okay, we're going to do a podcast. So I had about 4,000 followers on Twitter at that point. And I was like, okay. And it was like, I'm going to come out with a podcast. Went down to Staples, like I said, bought the whatever $50 microphone, plugged it in, and I'm like, all right. My friend did the website for me, and I just and I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Like, I can't just. I mean, maybe I'll do an interview one. I'll interview players, okay. And I'm like, and same thing with our love for the Western Hockey League and everything else. I'm like, all right. Well, the very first guy that I had on my show was Josh Mazer. He's a tough guy. He played in Spokane a little bit, and then he played with Medicine Hat and stuff. He's actually their assistant coach now. And he was and he spoiled me, because to this day, he might still be one of my best guests I've ever had. And he was my first one. So after that, I'm like, oh, this is easy. Turned out to be, how wrong was I? Because it's just been a massive pain in the ass most of the time. But he was so easy. It's so good. Told so many good stories. And and I put it out there. And the interview did really well. And the show kind of caught on, and it was like, and at the time it was sort of like the first of its kind, really, that was just fight-based, hashtag enforcer-based podcasting. That's my hashtag, right? And it was like no one else was doing that. Like, they'd have tough guy on here and there, but they never just focused on fighting like I did. And I just had the tough guys on, and it was like, and then the next interview I had John Morasti, and the next one was Steve McIntyre, and it was just like all these Western League guys, and it just kind of grew. And yeah, and it yeah, like I said, I had my own website there, and then it crashed, and then that was really it was about a year and a half in, and it crashed, and that was really disheartening. And I mean, I still had all the old MP3s and shit. I had the interviews still, but when I didn't have the site, and I was just like, whatever. And I'd had a couple guys like burn me in the interviews and stuff, and like ghost me, and it was starting to chase guys around. It wasn't. It was. My story's gonna go somewhere. I got a point to what I'm saying here.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
no,
like, I got tired of chasing guys around, and because I was just like, that's the one thing I will say. Side tangent here. I'm amazed that some of these, not a lot, but every once in a while, no respect for other people's time. It's like I don't like if you can't make it, that's fine. Just say you can't make it. But it's like, okay, when do you want to go? Oh, 7 to Tuesday, 7 o'clock, bro. All right. So Tuesday, you plan your whole night. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. You're just nothing, and then you're like, okay, are you not coming or what? And you never hear from them again. It's like, are you serious? Like you just couldn't send a text and like, anyway, that's happened so many times, but it just irks the shit out of me, and it just kills your passion for it, and it's just. But anyway, that happened a bunch of times. Then the website went down, and I was just like busy at work, and it was just like I was kind of in that phase where it's like this isn't really that fun anymore, and it's like I'm not making any money. I mean, it was never about the money, but it was like I'm not, all this is just costing me time. I mean, yeah, I got people that listen. I had no idea how many people listen, but I knew people were listening because you get feedback on social media about it. But it wasn't like, I wasn't rivaling Spit and Chiglets and Rogan for podcasting supremacy or anything. But I knew I had a few people listening, but it was just kind of like, whatever. And so I kind of I quit. Or after it went down, I was just like, oh, whatever. And then that was it for about 3 or 4 months. And then out of the blue one night, I get a DM from a guy named Isha with the Hockey Podcast Network. They had just started up a Hockey Podcast Network. And he says, can I phone you? Well, and that was the other thing. In the meantime, I had kind of done this deal with hockeyfights.com, and they were going to be my sponsor. And they were useless. They didn't do anything. It just screwed me over, and all they wanted to do was like basically I think what it came down to is they wanted to steal that Bob Probert Invitational idea from me and put it on their website. They wanted me to do it, but put it on their website. And I'm like, well, I'm not putting it on the website. I'm putting it on my Twitter account because that's what helps my Twitter account grow.
Yeah.
You guys already have enough people. Why are you not sponsoring me? I thought you were supposed to sponsor me. Like what, I'm giving you content, but at the same time, why are you trying to take my content, right? And we just had this big falling out, and I just told them where to go, but whatever, which turned out to be the best thing because they didn't do anything for me. And then, funny enough, they actually tried to do their own tournament online, and like everybody shit on them. They're like, you're stealing Fourth Line Voices gimmick. Like, what are you doing? They just they ran it one time and that was it. Yeah. And those hockeyfights.com, they know nothing about hockey fighting. It's pretty sad actually. But anyway, clowns. Singer who used to own it was cool. These new guys are goofs. Yeah. Yeah, they're. So I lost my sponsor. I didn't have a website, so I'm just sitting there and like, yeah, the old snowball microphone was put on the shelf, and I was just like, whatever. Starting to itch a little bit, and I'm like, it would, because I'm seeing other podcasts start up, and I'm like, but these suck, like I'm like, they're not, Again, I'm not trying to claim like I was, Joe Rogan or anything, but I was just like, I don't know. It was just still nobody was really doing it like a fight-based one. So anyway, Isha gets a hold of me. Can I talk to you? Sure. So I'm like, I don't know who he is. Like, so he phones me, and I get on the phone with him. And it's funny, and I feel bad now because I'm usually not like this, but I was still sort of probably sour a little bit about the whole hockeyfights.com thing. So when he starts talking to me about, oh, you should be on the net, we'll get you going, we'll put you on the network and all this. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm like, he's like, well, are you like, you're not into it? Or I'm like, yeah, I guess. But I'm like, what are you going to do for me? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, he goes, well, we'll host it and everything. Like, you don't have to pay for anything. Like, we'll host the thing. And all you have to do is send us the MP3 when you're done recording. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? He goes, I'll just keep doing what you're doing. He goes, I loved your show. What happened to your show? And I told him, he's like, oh, well, he goes, yeah, but that's what we want. whatever you're doing before, just do that. I'm like, all right, I guess. So yeah, so it was like 2018, 2019 or whatever. I started on the network, and they had a few shows on the network, but they quickly grew, and like they ended up getting like Terry Ryan's show, and they got a bunch of shows on there. And oh, next thing you know, it's like they started paying me, and I was just like, all right, like this is okay. And then they landed the DraftKings sponsorship, and so I started getting some money. And again, I wasn't about to quit the government gig or anything, but it was like, hey, I was doing this shit for free anyway. Now all of a sudden someone's gonna pay me a few bucks. It's like, all right, I guess. And yeah, and it just kind of went from there, and then it just kind of it took off. But the thing, to make a long story longer, like I said, the thing that I think this time around, this, like I always kind of call it the second part of Fourth Line Voice on the network. It was the one night again. I got ghosted one night. The guy was supposed to come, and I was just pissed. And I was just like, so I remember I came down in the basement here, turned the microphone on, and just started ranting. I had no guest. It was my first solo episode. I had never done a solo episode before, and I just started yapping. And I didn't call them out by name, but I just started ranting about just in general people not showing up and like manners and shit. Basically, it was like almost like a Sesame Street episode, right? Like now kids manners, and I'm kind of ranting. But then I had a pack of hockey cards sitting there, so I opened the hockey cards. So I started talking about and they're like an old like 1991 Pro Set pack or something. So I started talking about the cards in there. And no, it was Score. It was a Score the Lindros rookie year. And and I'm like, oh, we're gonna chase Lindros, and I'm looking for Lindros, and I start doing that, and then I'm ranting about something, and then I'm talking about some idiot I work with, and then at the end, I can't remember. I think I found one of those old Tough Guy magazines, and I like started reading the rankings or something, and that was the episode. And I put it out, and I'm like, whatever. I'm like, sorry, you didn't get an interview. You just got to listen to me now, and whatever. All of a sudden I start getting feedback, and they're like, oh yeah, that was great. Like it was hilarious. You like was making fun of that guy and ranting, and the hockey card thing was awesome. I remember, and all of a sudden all these guys started talking, oh, I remember I had those cards, and guys were sending me pictures of their card collections and stuff. And I was just like, okay, maybe I'm onto something here. So that's when I started hashtag drunk hockey carding. So I'd start drinking on Friday nights and start opening hockey cards and start doing that shit. And that caught on. And this is right when like Twitter was like really hot, and it was like, you could get a ton of interaction at night with people like right away. And it was like, it was really cool. And it was like a really cool community. And and like from there, it's just like, I've met so many people through it. And it reached so many people. And then the cool thing about being on the network is, of course, they had all the analytics, like who's listening, where they're listening, demographics and stuff. Like I never looked at that stuff before. But all of a sudden I started looking, and it was just like, and you really being the old fart, right? Like, you don't, but you don't think about it. It's like, here I am sitting in my basement in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, middle of winter. And there's someone in Finland listening to me. There's someone in Russia listening to me. There's a guy on the Isle of Malta. One guy on the Isle of Malta, it would say every day on the demographics, one guy would listen to every episode. And I'd call him out on the show. I'd be like, dude, if you're get a hold of me on Twitter or something. I just want to know who you are, and like what are you listening to? He never did though. But he'd always listen every episode. It was like you'd have one. It would just crack me up, the Isle of Malta. Yeah. But and it just made the world really small, as the internet does, right? And it's just like, so you started hearing from all these people. And then what I got to doing, because like I said, interviewing the players started to get really frustrating. And it started to become really hard. When I first started, it seemed to be really easy to get guys. Like everybody was sort of willing to do it, and like because nobody had really ever asked them before, and they were like, "Yeah, all right," And all of a sudden, there became more and more podcasts, and then, like you said, all the ex-players started getting shown. Well, who are they going to go to? Chris Nyland, or are they going to come to the fat guy in Saskatoon in his basement, right? Like, well, yeah, I wonder who they're going to do, right? And so Nyland got a show, and then John Scott got a show, and Riley, and all these ex-players, and it's just like, and of course they have the Rolodex of all the famous people, so they can just, no problem. So then you're sitting there over here struggling, and like no offense to the guys I interview, because that's who I want to interview anyway, is the junior and minor league guys. Really, I give a shit about the NHL guys, to be honest. But I mean, are you gonna listen to Tim Hunter? Or are you gonna come listen to Josh Mazer? And hey, yeah, I love Josh, but it's just like, really, so it's like you kind of almost took, like you said, you almost take a back seat. And then the frustrating thing to me was but I'd listen to these guys' interviews and they suck. Like they don't, it's all like kind of inside stories and just sort of, they don't do any research. Like they got some guy that probably hooks them up, and it's like, and I'm like, the other day, I was like, John Scott was there. He's interviewing Tim Hunter. It was just embarrassing. I'm like, you don't even know anything. Like they basically just open up Hockey DB and that's it, right? And it's just like they don't know anything about their careers, and just they do the very minimal amount of research, and it's just really annoying because. And I've always sort of prided myself on, like, when I do an interview, it's like I research that shit. I take hours researching a guy before I get him on. And it's like, and we go deep dive, man. And it's like, I ask about all his old teammates and all this stuff. I get on newspapers.com, go look up if something happened back in the day, right? An incident. And I'll be sitting there talking, I'll mention it to them, and you can see their face, like, and they're like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot about that, and then they tell, it makes for a good story, because then they tell the story if they can remember it. Some guys don't remember too much, but you bring up old teammates, and then that gets a story out of them, and then afterwards, like I'll get out afterwards, they'll be like, oh man, like he goes, you brought up names I haven't thought of in 25 years, man, and the players like really love it, right? They really enjoy it, talking about like not just them, but old teammates and stuff. And it's like, and those get the best stories. And so I always prided myself on my research and like being knowledgeable, because that's always a thing right nowadays. It's like you do the show and people like, because it just drives me nuts. And they'll fake it until you make it. No, people can see through that bullshit. They know if you know what you're talking about or not. People, especially like diehard fans, like I think people that listen to my show, you have to be fairly diehard. My show is not for like casual fight fans. They're not gonna know who I'm talking to or whatever. Like you're an old dub guy, you would know these people that I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. Young kid. That's the thing. But that's the one thing with my show, is there's sort of a glass ceiling with it, because young people, they don't give a shit about Josh Mazer, Chris Graff, or Paul Ferrone. They're like, whatever, or Joey Tedarenko, who is old Portland guy who turned out to be, he's one of my best guests I've ever had. Joey Tedarenko is awesome guest. Had him on twice. He's great. And great stories. But yeah, a guy like that, these kids aren't going to listen. Who? But to an old fan like you, or to like the diehard fight fans, that's what they want, man. They want like they want the B-side. They want the deep cuts, man. They want like maybe a guy that, he isn't out there, but they want to hear about when he played in the East Coast League. They want to hear about when he played in Roanoke and stuff. They like, it's not everything's just about the NHL all the time. Like, they want to hear about the junior. They want to hear about his come up and stuff. Because when he's on these other shows, they're not going to ask him. Like if Joey Tedarenko is on John Scott's show tomorrow, I guarantee John Scott's not going to ask him anything about playing in Portland.
No.
It'll just be about when he played in Florida, and when he played in the NHL or in Carolina, and what was it like to play with Brindamore, and that'll be, whatever, and that's fine. But like guys like Nyland and stuff, like I said, they'll do the surface stuff. Or if it's like an older guy that Nyland played against, they'll talk about, remember that time in the Garden when you were gonna go, or remember when you fought Byers, and and that's cool. Those guys got good stories, but they're not gonna talk about junior or anything like that, right? So I've always sort of, and maybe sometimes I think early on, I let the fight nerd get too into me. And like, I'm asking these guys about like almost like every fight they were ever in, right? And it's like, we're talking about guys with like 200 fights, right? Do we need to talk about all 200 fights? Probably not, right? So I was a little like, poor Mazer sat there, probably had to remember every fight he was ever in, because I was just grilling him, right? But over the years, I've learned, okay, pick the names out of what people, or if something unique happened in the fight, or other than that, pick out names, and then we'll go from there. But so I've kind of dialed it down a little bit. I've learned to condense my interviews. Before I would just go forever, and now it's sort of condensed down to hour and a half, maybe, but 2 hours. I'm never going to cut a guy off. If he wants, like Tedarenko, I think it's 3. But he was so good, I wasn't going to tell him to stop. So, yeah, he was great. And then I think we ended up talking for another like 2 hours after we went off the air. And yeah, so guys like that make the podcasting really worthwhile when you get a really good guest. And
Hmm.
you know, from interviewing people, like there's some people like you might never have met them before and you're having them on the show, but like right away you get into a groove with them and it's good. And I don't know, I can't explain it. I don't know why, but it's just. And then other guys, it's just not that they're dicks or anything, but there's nothing, you can't get a feel for them. There's nothing
Yeah.
there. And, you know, and I've had a few guys on and it's like, you get yes, no answers. And it's sort of like, well, I've had to pause shows a couple times. I'm like, dude, you got to give me something here. Like, you got to, you know, but some people just can't tell stories, right? They're not storytellers, right? So, and other guys like Joey and stuff are, right? So they're really good. Like, you ask one question and it's just this.
Yeah.
Much like you're doing right now to me, right? You just sort of
Yeah.
lean back and then let them go, right? And those are the easiest guys because it's like, okay. And then, but other guys, it's like, oh yeah, you have 4 pages of notes and you're done. You're done in 8 minutes, and it's like, oh, now what are we gonna do? Like, you know, I need at least 45 minutes out of this guy, you
Yeah.
know. So, and you have to stop and kind of like, dude, you know, and a lot of them, I think, especially the ones that are like still involved in hockey, they don't want to say anything controversial or tell us, you know, and so they keep everything kind of vanilla. And it's, well, like I always tell a perfect example because he's so nice. The perfect example was Jeff Odgers. Like when I had Jeff Odgers on, like he's so nice. He wouldn't say anything bad about anybody. So I'm asking about, of course, and then he fought a million times, right? So I'm asking about all these fights, and he's like, "Oh yeah, good guy, tough guy. Oh yeah, great guy, tough guy." Finally, I stop. I go, Jeff, yeah, I know they're tough guys. We all know Gino Ojic's tough. You didn't like everybody you fought. Like you had to have had. Oh, I hated that goddamn Warren Reichel. Like I was on pause with. I'm like, okay, well, tell that story then. I'm like, I'm not saying you're gonna go run him over in the parking lot tomorrow, but it's like at the time in this moment we're talking about, you didn't like a lot of these guys. No, I hated most of them. I'm like, it's okay to say that, you know. And he kind of loosened up and he kind of got what I was going with, but even then he was still pretty nice. But and then other guys just don't give a shit. They'll just knock everybody, and
Oh,
those are actually the best guests because it's like now you're gonna get some funny shit out of them. But yeah,
yeah.
it's been a heck of a ride. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. No. And when I do listen, I definitely feel like what guys like us we can add to the podcasting realm is that we're coming from the passion side,
Yeah,
and we may have a little bit of been able to peek behind the curtain a little bit, but at the same time, what we're trying to convey is what the ultra fan wants to hear, right?
yeah,
And because that's who we are, and it's not like these guys, these pro guys. Oh yeah, you remember, on the bus to Peterborough when we were in the O. You know what I mean? Like, remember that ride? You're like, no, we don't know what that's like.
yeah, yeah.
Talk
Exactly.
about it, and you get into they
Yeah,
get into these inside baseball conversations, and you're like, I'm a big St. Louis Blues fans when I moved out there, and I'll listen to Cam and Strick's podcast every once in a
yeah,
while, but then it kind of I don't want to hear about the guy's boat. You know what I mean? I don't
yeah,
want to hear about the guy. Tell me a story about what you spent your money on. That's stuff that I don't understand and will never understand. I want to hear about, you know, if it's not going to be about the fight, well, talk about when you knew you had a chance, and talk about that switch in your mind. To get into the inside
yeah,
baseball of it just loses its passion, and that really is the answers and the questions that we're trying to hear as fans, as listeners, and I think it's like sometimes the best coaches are failed. Well, a lot of times the best coaches are failed athletes because they knew what they lacked and they saw the
yeah,
talent above them, and now they're able to put it all together. Some of your worst coaches are your best athletes. You know what I mean? And I think that's the way it is with podcasting. I think it's the guys that weren't able to achieve that or were never in the cars to be there, but we kind of get it because we're ultra fans and we've been through it in some shape or form in our life, and we've been able to put it together, and we want to hear your perspective in a unique way, the real perspective, and not the curated one that seems to happen with a lot of these guys. I really I used to listen to a lot of them, but I can't anymore. I got to listen to
No,
the guys like us interviewing the guys, because and like you said, then you get the guys that are still involved in the game one way or the other, and you're not going to get
no,
too much out of Tim Hunter, like
no. Yeah,
like
well, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, exactly what you. Yeah, and I've said that on the air a bunch of times, and I don't mean it like, again. I'm not trying to like some cocky asshole, but I've
no.
often said with my show, I said I'll put up any one of my interviews up against anything Spit and Chicklets has ever done.
Oh, 1,000%,
You
a
know, and
thousand
I'm like,
percent. Yeah,
well, Joe Lazito, right?
great one, just
Yeah,
phenomenal. You guys
yeah,
are the top two. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
yeah. So everybody says, so Mick Fakota's on Spit and Chicklets, but
Okay.
last year or whatever.
Yeah.
Fakota's a great guest. Fakota, great stories.
Yeah.
It was great Chiglets interview. That was a good one.
I didn't watch all.
But Whitney and Bissonette don't know who Mick Fakota is. I mean, they know him, but they don't know him, right? I'll never, and I don't have a problem with. I like Biz. I like Whitney. Well, Whitney, whatever. But Biz, I like Biz. Fine, but
Yeah.
it's like I'll never forget when who's Link Gates. I'm like, how are you? You don't know who Link Gates is? What do you mean? Like, I'm like, how does Paul Bissonnette not know who Link Gates is? And all the NHL dressing rooms you were in, not one of these old guys ever told a Link Gates story. I'm like, Jesus, man. But whatever. Anyway, so they have Fakota on, and it was a decent interview because Mick could tell good stories.
Yeah, he's
Mick
great.
made that interview. It wasn't because Spit Jiglets was asking great questions.
Yeah.
No, it's because he's a good storyteller. But I remember I went the next day on my podcast. I went on there, and I said, oh, I see all over social media and online. Oh, Mick Fakota is a great interview. And a lot of these young kids are like, they don't know who he is, but they're looking him up on YouTube now because he was on Spit Chiglets and he was really funny. So they're looking up his stuff on YouTube. And I'm like, you want to know funny and you want a Mick Fakota interview? Joel Lazito's interview runs circles around
Holy shit, was
Spit
that a
and
great?
Chiglets interview.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I mean, I
it's
think
a
it's
Hall
like,
of Fame interview.
yeah, and I think it's like 5 parts or something. Joe
Yeah.
shit by the. I thought I was thorough. Holy shit! I look like the Coles notes compared to Joe. I mean, by the
Yeah.
time you're done, you'll know Fakota's shoe size and his social insurance number when he's done with Joe. I mean, that guy. I never mind rocks. He flips pebbles over, but
Yeah.
But I mean, Barry's Spit and Chiglets in terms of information.
Yeah.
His interviews, and he's just like that. But it's like he probably got a fraction of the listens, and that's the annoying part because it's like. And I know Joe's not in it for that and whatever. He's doing it because he wanted to talk to Mick, and he's known Mick forever, but he
Yeah.
wanted to put that out there to share with the world, right? And that's ultimately, like you were saying too. I was fortunate enough to get money from the Hockey Podcast Network, and they were going to pay me. They pay me to do it and whatever. And that's a nice little side benefit, like a little side hustle, whatever. That's cool. Pay for the plane tickets to Vegas once a year. I mean, that's cool. That's not why I'm doing it. It's not. That's never been why I'm doing it about the money. And the same thing with you. I'm too old to be on Sports Center. Too fat. I'm too old. I'm not doing this as some stepping stone to get me somewhere. And if a young guy at 18 or 17 is thinking I'm going to get into podcasting and it's going to get me to wherever, ESPN or whatever, good for you. Go for it. That's great. If you're going to try it and that's your goal, go for it. I'm all for it. I didn't do that. I didn't get into it for that. I'm just getting into it because it's a hobby. I like talking about it. At the time, no one was doing it. The topic I was doing, and it was just like, yeah. And I basically just lived out my fight nerdom on the air for people to listen to, and I knew there was people out there. And what I was saying before about the glass ceiling, the problem is most of the people that would listen to my show are you and like our age. Well, these guys aren't on Twitter, on Instagram, so they're not going to find me. But I know if they listen, they'd like it because I'm talking about all this shit. Because these are the same guys that were on Fried Chicken Fight site and hockeyfights.com 20 years ago. But they're not on there, and they're not on really social media anymore. So it's like you got to go find them. And oddly enough, as all the kids are talking about Twitter and Instagram and all this, my biggest success for my podcast in terms of listenership and growing has been Facebook. And of course, they always laugh at me. Okay, Grandpa, you and your Facebook, because that's all the old people are on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, old people are the ones that who I'm talking to because I'm
Mhm.
old. And that's my listening audience are about 70s, 80s, and 90s guys. Well, those are all like my demographic is 45 and up mainly for my show.
Mhm.
18-year-olds aren't listening. They're listening to Spit and Jiglets because they want to Trevor Zegras or something, whatever. But I'm talking to minor league guys and junior guys from the 90s or 80s. So my audience is the Facebook audience. So that's where I found my most of my success has been on Facebook in terms of like show growth and that type of thing. Has been through Facebook. Funny
That's
enough.
very interesting. That's very interesting, and because I grew to the point where I grew with my YouTube, which isn't a lot, but for a nobody in a small little niche, um, through Facebook, in my opinion, I think I got the eyeballs that I needed to get a little bit of leeway and hit that monetized mark on YouTube through Facebook. It was all Facebook's doing in a lot of ways, but for whatever reason, I guess probably because I got the YouTube starry eyes or whatever, I quit doing it a lot on Facebook, and now my page is almost like non-existent. So that's interesting. Have you monetized on Facebook at all, or
Well, the funny thing is of course I started uploading. I had all these fight DVDs, and so I started uploading, and I made the Fourth Line Voice YouTube channel. So I have like 2,500 fight videos on there.
yeah, oh yeah,
NHL, WHL, minor league stuff. And I was well at the time. You remember Drop Your Gloves, the fight
the,
cards?
the greatest, yeah,
Yeah, greatest site ever. And remember, you could go to the fight and they had the little camera, so you could go watch the link or whatever.
oh yeah,
Well, I would go find where there wasn't a camera. And I'm like, I have that fight on disc, so I would go upload it onto my channel, and within 10 minutes it would be on Drop the Gloves, the link, right? So that initially when I started my page, I was putting up stuff that wasn't on YouTube. Like
yeah,
I wasn't going to upload Probert versus Domi. I mean, that's on there 1,000 times.
yeah,
But Purington Symes wasn't.
no,
So I put it up there. So it was like, yeah. So I started putting up all my old WHL stuff and Western League stuff and minor
yeah,
league, and that's what I did.
yeah,
So and right away it grew. Yeah. So all of a sudden, yeah, and then I was monetized, and man, good money on YouTube, man. When you're monetized and you're cruising and you're getting tens and thousands of views on your videos, it's like,
yeah,
oh man, oh, I get checks for like $400 or $500 a month, and I'm like, here we go. This is and then all of a sudden, they demonetized me so fat. They're like, yeah, you're using copyrighted material, and I'm like, no, I think they demonetized. First, they cut my ad revenue because I was violent. Then I became an 18 and older channel. I'm like, oh yeah, did you do that to the UFC or I doubt it. You do that to the
no,
NHL? Probably not, but I get it. Okay. So I'm 18 and older on my channel. All right. So my ad revenue is now cut in half. Ah, whatever. I was just uploading the fights for other fight fans to see. I wasn't doing it for the money. The
right,
money was a nice little side deal, but I wanted
absolutely,
to share Symes and Purington with people because I know they
yes,
hadn't seen it. I had shit no one's ever seen. I'm going to put it
uh-huh.
up there. That was my point. So that's why I was doing it. So then and then all of a sudden they're like, well, and of course you're talking to a computer, you're not talking to a person, but they're like, yeah, I can't remember, it's sort of like repetitive video or something. Like you're not, basically you have no, it's not nothing, you're not putting up original content. You're
Right,
putting up, and I'm like, well, no, yeah, if I put up Probert and Domi, yeah, that isn't original. Everyone does that. I'm
yeah,
not. All my shit's original stuff that I'm putting on there. But they
uh-huh,
don't recognize that. They just look at it as a hockey fight.
yeah,
That's the same as everyone else. So they demonetize me. So I'm like, oh, well, whatever. I mean, I still upload stuff onto YouTube all the time, but yeah, I don't get paid for it. But no, and the Facebook thing, I'm so stupid. Last year, they sent me a thing about, oh, you should monetize your channel. And I'm like, oh, so what? People are going to come to my Facebook page, and all of a sudden there's going to be ads all over. And I just like, yeah, whatever. And I didn't do it. And then of course, I started the other podcast. I got two podcasts. The other one,
yeah,
Bruised and Battered, that I do with Alec and Jay, the other two guys. Alec runs our Bruised and Battered Facebook page because I have a
uh,
Fourth Line Voice Facebook page. He does and he's like, oh shit, man. He goes, we made $100 this month. And I'm like, on what? He goes, on Facebook. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's looked and we're just doing this. It was on our Zoom before we started recording one episode. He's like, "Is your channel not monetized?" And I'm like, "You can monetize Facebook?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember them sending me something last year." And he's like, "Dude, you got to do it." So I'm like, "All right." So I start going through it, and I'm like, "Okay, monetize." Yeah, I made like almost $400 last month. First month in December 12th to January 12th. I made like $402 for posting pictures of fight pictures. Like, oh, Bob Probert's picture made me $10. I'm like, you shitting me? I've been doing this for like 10 years. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I left. How much money did I leave on the table? So yeah, so I'm like, all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, the money's just. I'm like, this is the easiest money I ever made in my life. I'm like, all right, because I was doing it anyway. Because
Yeah.
all it is, I've always just viewed Facebook as a giant advertisement for the podcast.
That's the way I
So
looked at it. Yeah.
yeah, so I just kept putting up fight pictures and like getting people, and then all of a sudden I'd like, hey, come to my live stream on Friday nights, 11
Yeah.
Eastern, Fighting Friday on YouTube. Here's a link to my YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. So I tried to grow. So I've grown subscribers on YouTube through Facebook, and then listens to the podcast through Facebook, and I just use it as a giant billboard. Like I'm not
Mhm.
posting it like personal shit. Not like there isn't a picture of me and Lisa in Vegas in front of the sign or anything. Like no one gives a shit about me. They just want to see me put Probert pictures up or Ojik or something. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I just do that and like put up fight clips and it was like and over Christmas especially I've noticed over the years, even with the podcast, the amount of views and listens over Christmas is insane. So it became like a perfect time to monetize my Facebook channel because it was just like because everyone's sitting around, right, waiting for
Yeah.
the turkey or whatever and opening gifts, and then now you're just sitting there and yeah, and it was like all of a sudden it's like yeah, I gained like hundreds of followers in a month, and it was just like and hopefully that translates to it doesn't hopefully it translates to a few people to listen to the podcast. I now know that social media follower numbers do not equal listens on your podcast whatsoever.
No.
That's a whole other animal. Even on the live stream, like I'll make a reel for on Friday morning when I'm at work. I make a little 20-second reel, put a bunch of fight pictures on there with the text, and I'll voice it over. Hey, Fighting Friday live stream, Fourth Line Voice YouTube. The link is in the description. Come watch. We'll hockey fight watch along. Minor can't play NHL stuff because they'll copyright you and shut your stream down. So it's got to be minors and juniors, which is better anyway. I'm like, come
Yeah.
watch the minors and juniors, new, old, crazy. Come check it out. Bring your own beer and join the chat. It'll be great. You know, put it out 7 a.m. Friday morning on my Facebook channel. I put it in a bunch of different fight groups. Oh yeah, by 5 or 6 o'clock that night, I look, it's got 6,000 views, the reel. I'm like, all right, here we go. Yeah, 8 people in the live stream. It's like, are you serious? Like, what are we doing? It's got like 6,000 views. How do I get 8 guys here? And it's like the same 8 assholes every day or every Friday, right?
Yeah.
2 of them are the guys I do the other podcast with. So
Right.
we end up just sitting there drinking and
Yeah.
getting half hammered in the hour and a half that I do the live stream. And I still have fun with it, but I don't understand. I don't know how to get people I don't know what more you can do. I mean, but yeah, numbers and like I always say, I think that's the problem. I mean, with the content creation, it's like I always say it's definitely a young person's game. I think they have a lot more energy than I do, and I give them credit. I used to like look at influencers and like kind of you know, but well, I still do that for a lot of them. But I might not respect their content or what they're doing, but I respect their hustle and what they're trying to accomplish and the amount of work that goes into it. So I tell people, even with a podcast, like the listeners or whatever, like, oh man, why didn't you come out with a show this week? It's like, dude, I work 65-hour weeks at work,
Yeah.
70-hour
Yeah.
weeks in the summer. I have a wife upstairs I need to talk to every once in a while. We
Yeah.
actually have a life outside of this basement. I can't just sit down here all the time and just, I can't, sometimes I'm going to miss shit. I said, I think I've been pretty goddamn consistent for 8 years of 400 and almost 500 episodes. I'm like, I think I've been pretty consistent voice in your head every commute Monday morning. But, every once in a while I am going to miss some shit, right? And then sometimes it's just not into it. Don't have a guest. The other night I was supposed to come down here and record. I just sat here and stared at the screen and I couldn't come up with anything. And I was just like, yeah, whatever. And I just went back upstairs. Just wasn't feeling it, and it's like, and you can't fake it, right? Yeah, at least I can't. And it's just like, and I mean, I've fiddle fucked my way through a few episodes, and I know they sucked, and you know, and it's like, whatever. You're not going to hit a home run every 488 episodes, but try to give them content anyway. And like, if they got the best of what I had that night anyway, but sometimes you're just not into it, or you do a topic you think it's going to be good and it just falls flat. It's just not there, or it didn't come off the way you wanted it to, and it's just like, nah. But, or like I said, or you have an interview and it sucked. Like you get, like I appreciate the guy taking time to come on, but it's like afterwards and you get off the thing, it's like, that wasn't any good, but whatever. Try better next time. But I think the information was good. I think the research was there. It was never, I always, like, again, I'm trying to sound like some cocky asshole throughout this, but it's like, if the interview was shitty, it wasn't because the research was bad. The research was there. The answers were bad, and it's like, or they weren't prepared, or they didn't, whatever. Like I said, some guys can't tell stories, or they're just not, or they don't understand what I'm kind of trying to get at. And, so it just doesn't work sometimes. Other times it's great. But yeah, but I think people, they have no idea the effort that goes into this. I said, because not only now you got to get a guy, make time, put time aside, sit down, do research for hours, get him on the interview. There's a couple hours.
Yeah.
Edit it, upload it, do the show graphic, upload it, talk about it. Now you got to go on social media and promote it. Go to all the different fight groups, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Put up pictures every day. Every day when I get to work and I start the truck, especially when it's this cold, let it warm up. As it's warming up, I'm on my phone. Cut paste. All to the four sites I always go to every day, and like just basically spam with my show links, because it's like that's what you have to do. Because these people have like goldfish memories. If you don't give them flashing lights every 5 seconds, you're forgotten about, and it's just constant barrage. That's what I'm trying to do on Facebook now. My brother laughs because now he knows I'm getting paid on Facebook. He just laughs. He goes, "Oh, put some more pictures up." Like, oh yeah. Before I'd put maybe 2 or 3 pictures a day up. Oh shit, now it's 2 or 3 every hour. And right. I'm just putting shit up, and I'm like just throwing it against the wall. Maybe it'll stick. I'm starting to figure out, okay, this guy's popular. This guy. These guys do pretty good numbers, so it's gonna be a lot of Bob Probert and John Morasti in my Facebook feed these days. But but it's been an interesting. Because like you said, I don't come from a computer background. I didn't have computers in high school and shit, right? So I had to learn all this on my own. Well, my wife basically, she knows, like she's a teacher and shit. So she obviously has to do the computer thing, but she's the one that showed me how to Photoshop and do all that stuff and make videos and edit, and like I don't know any of this stuff. And so it's been a real learning process. I know the one thing, I know you with your YouTube and like the videos and stuff, I don't really have any original content on YouTube other than my live streams now. All my other shit was just fight clips.
Right.
Like I didn't put I put the audio version of my podcast on my YouTube channel now. But I never understood. I didn't see the value in a video podcast. I just like, I'll just do audio. I'm like, I said, because the network's always on me to do, oh no, you should do a video on YouTube. You should do video and on YouTube. I'm like, who listens to a podcast on YouTube? I'm like, I listen to this shit on Spotify in the truck, in the phone in the visor. I'm like, I'm not visual. Like, I'm like, unless you're showing highlights and stuff behind you, like if I'm talking about a certain fight and then it's playing, okay, I understand that. But I'm like, who the hell wants to just look at my fat head in my messy bedroom or my messy office behind me for an hour and a half? Like, so I just never. Apparently, people do. I guess so. I guess maybe in the new year here, I guess I'll still do the audio thing on Spotify and iTunes and all that, obviously. But I guess I'll start. Well, and then like my buddy goes, well, if you ever want to get monetized again on YouTube, he goes, you need to start doing original shit like this. Because he goes, that's how they'll monetize. I have to get remonetized. I have to show original content. And he goes, so start doing this. I'm like, all right, I guess. Not that I have any desire to, but it's like, all right. So that'll be I guess say the new year. I guess it is the new year, but shortly, I guess when I get back from Vegas, I guess I'm going to be doing a YouTube show, apparently, podcast. Or my podcast will be on YouTube visually
Yeah.
as well as
Yeah.
on iTunes and Spotify. Sorry, man. I'm sitting there. I'm doing all the time. I'm so used to doing solo episodes and yapping all by myself. I'm
Hey,
bogarting
man.
this whole thing here. So,
Oh, I don't
but
care,
I'm
man.
trying to sound. I'm trying to give the origin story while trying to
Yeah.
sound somewhat entertaining at least. But I don't know if I'm accomplishing either, to be honest. But
No, no, you're all right. Oh, yeah, this is what it's about for me. It's for me, it's like I tell myself, like, yeah, once I got monetized, it wasn't a thing. I didn't realize how difficult that is for a lot of people.
yeah,
And then once I started making a little extra dough, not a lot. I like I'm paying it's paying for itself almost, not anymore,
yeah,
because the more you try to do, the more you have to pay, unfortunately. Um, but I was like, well, at least I'm getting some of my money back for what I put into it. Um, but my goal with this is to try to figure out how could an average guy with less than a million or half a million viewers turn this into at least a good side hustle business. And for me, I haven't found that answer. And this is kind of my journey, hearing
hmm
from people like you, just your journey of, the ups and downs of what you have to face in this world. And especially, when you're involved in a niche that's heavily regulated because of all the copyright bullshit, and
yeah,
then just, the kind of a buttoned up image that hockey tries to portray in a lot of ways. Like you said, you're not always getting the best stories out of guys, but um, I think that there's something there, but it's just what it is and how it is. I don't know. I haven't figured it out. So this is what I did with my dog pie. I had a learning process. I just shared my learning process when I talked to old school dog breeders that were around forever. Uh, I was just asking them questions and sharing the learning process that I was going through to my audience, and a lot of people picked up on that, and I have loyal listeners for that reason.
hmm
I'm not going to be the flashy guy that tries to make a spectacle of out of dogs, which you see a lot of. If you're into the dog world, you know that side of it. That's just not me. So my viewership is a steady pace of just staying right
yeah,
here. Maybe a little blip here every once in a while, then just a steady, then a blip, and
yeah,
that's all I get. And I know that just with my personality, my age, and um, that's just the way it's going to be. But there could be something there. It's just I don't know. I'm going to try to figure it out because I'm not quitting my day job.
yeah,
I'd like to be able to, but it's not something that I'm going to try to accomplish in a way where I'm trying everything under the sun and kill myself in the process of doing it. No, I'm just going to do me and logically try to figure this out. And if it never comes to fruition, so what? At least I'm looking forward to sharing my process with people, and that's what all it is for me. And so when I hear your stories about your trials and tribulations of what goes on YouTube and then now Facebook, it's just interesting to me. And I think people in our realm that are just starting out. I mean, I've talked to a couple of guys on this podcast that are in kind of in the same boat as me. They're trying to figure it out, and
hmm
and it's and that's who I'm trying to speak to through these interviews here is just
yeah,
those guys that have thought about doing it or just started doing it, and like hey, there's a realistic perspective here for us real folk. We don't have built-in sponsorships. We have to work our way through that sort of
yeah,
thing and try to figure it out from there. And
yeah,
that's what I'm
yeah.
doing.
Well, that was the thing, and it was like, and I look now, I know, but at the time, I didn't realize how lucky I was that Isha made that phone call to me with the Hockey Podcast Network. I didn't realize it at the time, and like I said, I was kind of a dick to him, actually, to be honest, at the start, because I was just so disenfranchised, right? Like just
Yeah.
like, and And it's turned out to be, like I said, it's been I got really fortunate and really lucky, and at the time, because I remember just other guys around me that were doing podcasts, Lazito, guys like that, they were putting in just as much work as I was, and they weren't getting any money for it. So so I started to kind of realize, like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, this is a pretty good deal here. And fortunately, I got Lazito onto the network and stuff, so it was like, it was good that way. And it was, and it's interesting, yeah, because and I appreciate what you're doing with this, with the content creation, because that was the thing. Like, when I started, yeah, I didn't have anybody. I didn't have anyone to ask or how this worked, or no, none of my friends, they didn't even listen to podcasts. They didn't. What's a podcast? And I don't have kids, so it's not like, oh, I was gonna say, if you have computer problems, go ask the 11-year-old. They'll fix everything, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that, right? So I didn't have any. So it's all been sort of just trial by fire, right? And it was just sort of, making a few mistakes here and there, and just sort of, like I said, throwing it against the wall, and seeing what worked. But I always, and probably to my detriment, I was gonna say, and probably with you too, it's like, sometimes when you're niche, you're niche, and there's a certain level of growth or stagnation, right? You're like, when I first started, oh yeah, it was this because I was the only one doing it. Well, now everyone's doing it, and now it's,
Yeah.
oh, I get a good guest on, but then it's like that next week. Oh, Ted Wrinkle's on, Marasti's on. Oh, Darren's on by himself for 3 weeks. It's like, so it's just, but I still got my loyal guys that are there all the time. I got the same baseline listenership, which is hard enough to get. So I'm always thankful for that anyway, because it's hard to get anybody to listen, because there's just so much out there, so much. And it's like, so to try to find a voice is very hard to do. And I was going to say, like, so I get people all the time sending me questions like, yeah, how do I get started? I want to do a podcast and all that. And I never want to sound like, I never want to discourage anybody, because I think the world needs more creation and artists and content creation. They need that. I said, but you need to be like, you need to have your voice. You need to be unique. Like, no one gives a shit that you talk about the Penguins game last night. There's 1,000 people talking about the Penguins game last night. So you got to find something, though. Find a voice, and wherever it may be, and it's like, and then go full bore into that. And like, I was never going to stray away from the fighting part of hockey. That was always going to be my thing. And like I said, to my detriment, I've had people say, oh, I can get you this guy, get you that guy. He doesn't fit in on the fourth line voice, or it's a new guy. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, no, and it probably would have helped my show. It wasn't like, Sidney Crosby or anything like that, but it was like, there was one guy, I don't even remember his name now, but he plays in the NHL. But I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is. So I'm like, he fought a couple times, but it's like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't care. And if I had him on, it would probably help with younger demographic would tune in. Oh, for one episode, they gonna stick around for two? No. So it's like, and I didn't have the passion to interview him, and I think that would have come through. So it was just like, I just let it go. But that probably would have helped my show. But I'm sticking to what I know and what I'm good at, and what I'm passionate about. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's what I'm passionate about. And yeah, there are times I probably could have, I don't want to say sell out, but I could have probably went and done other things that would have got me bigger views or maybe more listens. But it was just like, I'm not into it. I wasn't feeling it, so I'm not going to do it. I'd rather interview Josh Mazer than Ryan Lohnberg or Matt Rempe, because I don't give a shit, But yeah, a Rempe interview would be 10 times more than Josh Mazer. I had way more fun talking to Josh Mazer. So it's like, that's just my wheelhouse. So anyway, that was a long, I don't know what I talking about. Oh, I was, so you get content creation, and it's like, and it's so hard, but I said, you have to find a unique voice. Like, even the young nephew there is like, I want to start a YouTube channel. What's it going to be on? Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'm like, well, no, you need to have a plan. If you're going to do it, and you're going to invest all that time and everything into it. I said, first of all, if you're going to do it right. If you're going to invest time in it, put time into it, study it, research it, whatever it may be. Like, don't just buy a microphone or do whatever and just turn it on and whatever. Like, no, put some effort into it.
Yeah.
Same guys that don't put any research in or do anything, they don't understand why they get 10 people. Oh, I get 10 listeners. I can't grow. Yeah, because you kind of suck. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're not unique. You're not putting any effort into it. And that comes through.
Yeah.
Like you have to find a voice, you have to find a niche, find your voice and your audience, and they'll come. But and everybody wants it right now, right? Everybody wants their like instant. If it doesn't, oh, if I don't get 10,000 view listens, it's well, I'm not doing this anymore. Well, yeah, you know what? Your first few episodes, you're going to get 8 people listening. Maybe that's just the way it
Mm-hmm.
is. You start a YouTube channel, you're going to have 3 subscribers for a long time, but you be consistent. Consistency is the key too. If you're going to do a podcast, don't do one on Thursday and then next Tuesday and then a month from now. And no, say I'm going to come out every Wednesday. Be there every Wednesday. Have a show every Wednesday. Consistent, consistent. That's my anybody listening to this. Be consistent, whether it be you have a schedule, stick to that schedule, and that's how you do it. And to me, because that's growth too. It's consistency. Nothing worse. There's been a couple podcasts. I love their stuff. You don't know when they're on. Sometimes they're on Thursdays. Other time, oh shit, he dropped one. Okay, you listen to it. All of a sudden, he comes. Oh, sorry, folks, I've been gone for a month. Well, how are you? And then 3 episodes later, he's bitching because no one's listening. Well, yeah, no one knows where you are, man. Like you got to be consistent. So yeah, that's the one thing I did find really early on because I was sort of hit and miss. I was sort of like if I could get a guy, I'd be like, "Can you record tonight?" Yeah, all right. So that's when I was releasing my episode. Well, okay. So I was all over the place. I'd have 3 episodes one week, and then next week none, and then I was all over. So it was like Isha. That's the network came out. They're like, no, come out every Tuesday or whatever, but every week you're there, like just like the rain, man. Right on like rain, right? You're just there, and it's just So it's like okay, I learned that. So that was one of the main things, and that really about 6 or 7 episodes in of being a regular time slot, so to speak, I could see growth, and
Mm.
it was catching on because people knew on their drive to work, their commute Tuesday morning, Darren was going to be there every Tuesday morning. I put you on my car and listen to you. I've gotten millions of those jacks, right? Like yeah, every Tuesday on the way to work, I'm listening to you, or when I'm working out when I get home every Tuesday, and it's like yeah, and it's been a great journey, but it's a lot more work than I ever knew it was going to be, and I
Yeah.
try to stress that to people. Like, if you want to be what success can mean, it obviously means different
Yeah.
things to different
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
but whatever you want to call it, if you want to make a mark in podcasting, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Like when you're not famous, when you're just Joe Blow with a microphone from Staples and you're in your basement, it's really hard. And you have to be and there's you need a lot of luck and you need social media and you need to hustle and you got to put in work. And there's a lot of times, oh man, I've come upstairs, wife's pissed. I thought we were watching a movie tonight. The fuck were you doing? Oh, I had to edit the shit. The audio wasn't working, and whatever. Spent a few nights on the couch. I can tell you that. I had heat, man, but it was like, I do it for the art, Sean. I do it for the art, but
Yeah.
but yeah, and that's what you're gonna have to do sometimes. Like you're gonna miss shit. You're gonna piss people off. You're gonna and like I said, if you're gonna do it, dive in or don't do it. Like that's always been my attitude. Like I wasn't gonna half-ass this. Like if I was gonna do a podcast, I was gonna research the shit of the guest. And I was gonna be good, like a good interview, and I was gonna dig deep. And it was like I wanted to stand out. So, but that takes time. And
Yeah. 1,000%. I agree with you wholeheartedly about consistency. That's something that I've never been able to accomplish just because my
it's hard.
schedule and then
Yeah,
my temperament. You know what I mean? Like there are
yeah,
days, I'm in the people business and I'm dealing with some heavy things and I'm at my age, has been doing it for so long, and I'm like, God, I'm carrying that burden of my work life sometimes, and then
yeah.
to come down here and be positive or it's sometimes hard for me to do so. I don't always, even though I'm completely focused on my passion hobby here, I just can't bring the gumption to follow through sometimes. But I agree with you 1,000%, and that's something that I'm going to strive for. Um, you know, is a little more consistency, and then even if I've got to batch a bunch of interviews, you know what I mean. That way, I can put it out once a week
Yep.
and have a lot more consistency. So yeah, to everybody who's thinking about starting, that's the key. And you don't have to like upload 10 times a week, once a week, you know, but you tell your listeners, like you said, Tuesday at 7 p.m. My interview or my episode's gonna drop. And so people, when you throw out extras, they're happy to see it, you know, because they
Yeah.
know Tuesday's gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be there for you, even if you're like out of the blue, you're live streaming on a Sunday afternoon or whatever. You know what I mean? I think
Yep.
I think that's where I've lost some of my trajectory. There is just not being able to do that, and at this point, I'm okay with that. But I know, because I know that I need to accomplish that side of being a content creator, is a little more consistency if I want to grow, right? But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? At this point, I'm not gonna stress too much about it, but I agree with you 1,000%. And it is like, if it's going to be a passion hobby and you're really into it, there are going to be days where you're going to have to tell the boys no, or you're going to have to tell the wife, you know, maybe
Yeah.
tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that is hard. My wife sometimes like looks at me and says, like, hey, you know, you just spent 2 hours on your computer. You didn't look up once. You didn't acknowledge me. I'm like, oh my god, I apologize, but you know, this is my pad. This is what keeps me sane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just part of my life, and but yeah, I resonate with what you said completely about that.
Well,
What,
that was the amazing thing to me, and I never knew it at the time until I had to step away from it for a while. Like I said,
yeah,
when my site went down, and I wasn't doing it for a while. I'm like, son of a, like, you know, because the site crashed. I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah, you know, whatever. I'm
yeah,
out of here. Well, now all of a sudden it's like, I something would come up on hockey, and I'd be like, oh man, I wish I had that button. I'd be ranting. I'd be blasting PK Subban right now if I
yeah,
was recording, right? I'm
yeah.
like, I should get back into it. And I started finding that I missed it. And then I started realizing, like, I think the second time around, like I always say, it's like kind of 2.0 now on the network, but it's like
Mhm.
the second time around was a lot more. I, I, I was much more, not after like 50 episodes, I was some big veteran, but it was like, I was much more in tune with what I wanted to do. And I found my voice.
Mm.
Before it was just interviewing, and it was like the real fight nerd in me asking all the questions. And as they're talking, I'm just scrolling, drop your gloves and everything, right? And I'm like, you
Yeah.
know, but when I kind of got away, when I got pissed off at guys ghosting and everything else, and I started doing the solo episodes, that's when I really found myself. And that's when I really fell in love with podcasting. I didn't know it at the time, but when I started doing solo stuff, and now I'm researching stuff, I'm like, now I got to go find stuff that I think people will want to hear. It was one thing, oh, I'm getting Jeff Odgers or Chris McAllister. Well, yeah, okay, I'm going to get the Flyer fans and San Jose fans that remember. Like, they're coming because of them, not because of what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm just the annoying guy that's they got to listen to the most. But they're
Yeah.
coming for them. They ain't coming for me. And I knew that. I knew they weren't tuning in for me. But when it's a solo episode, it's all Darren now. It's all
Yeah.
me. So now
Right.
I have to find, like, okay, like if I'm listening to somebody, if I'm listening to Sean's podcast, you know, what's he going to talk about? What's he going to make? What's he going to say to draw me in?
Right.
And and I've done I did a few bits and stuff and like skits, and not skits, but like different things. Some didn't work, some worked. I found people love lists. They love lists. I have found that out. So
Yeah.
it was like I would just go on the internet and find something. Oh, top 10 Montreal Canadian fighters of all time.
Yeah.
Okay. let's do it, folks. So I start doing the list, and I start just taking the piss out of the list because most of them are just terrible, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
makes it, I always say the worse the list, the better, right? Because that just
yeah,
makes it funny now,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, like, you know, best Pittsburgh Penguin enforcers, and then, you know, all Samuelson's third or something. So now I just got to blow the list up. I'm losing my mind on this list, right?
yeah,
Who is this author? And I'm going, we should spam this guy. What's he doing, right?
yeah,
But people love that shit, right? They don't
yeah,
want to hear my. So I mean, I could do a list, but what's the fun in that? I want to do, and so what I. So all of a sudden, I had a whole bunch of people. I would say, send me lists, DM me the list, but don't like. So I wouldn't look at it. Like before, I'd find it online and I'd do the list, right? I'd look at the list. Okay, I'll do that on the air. Well, then I started having people send me the list, but I wouldn't look at them. So I'm discovering them on the air while I'm recording, right? So it's a genuine reaction. So when I do a list now, it's a genuine reaction. I'm like, who wrote this shit, right? Like,
yeah,
are you kidding me? And people love that shit. So the list thing became really good. That's been a real key one. And now I have people send me lists, so they're doing the research for me. It's even better. Oddly enough, on an audio podcast, opening hockey cards apparently is popular, which is
yeah,
odd. They can't see them, but I know they can't see them. So now I can't just, okay, that was fun. Well, no, I have to, who did I get? And
yeah,
then, okay, oh, I got this guy. So if I have a story about him, or I'll throw it out there and I'll tell some anecdote about the guy, whatever it may be. But I like, that's a challenge because, of course, I don't know who's in the pack. Like I'm
yeah,
opening it live on the air, so I don't know. So it's a challenge now. Can I come up with something about this person? So
yeah,
it's a challenge to me too, right? So now it's a battle of how much of my hockey knowledge, right? Because now we're not just talking fighters. Now I got to talk about everybody, right? So like, do I have a stat for Tim Kerr? Okay, well, let's come up with one. But it's like, you know, so that's been fun. But you just got to find different like niche things, and like I said, when something happened at work or whatever, or I call it, or on the internet now with my Facebook. Oh, the idiot comments that I get on the
yeah,
comment section on Facebook is baffling to me. And then on YouTube, well, you know, from YouTube, I said all the world's idiots are in the comment sections on a YouTube video.
yeah,
Unbelievable. So then I call it on my segments, my week on the internet. So then I just take the piss out of some idiot that left a comment. Oh, I just destroy the guy on the show,
yeah,
right? Like just shit like that. And people have sort of gravitated. Like I get messages. I love when you get really mad. It's like I'm not really that mad.
no,
But
yeah,
I let them think I'm really mad, right? So I'll act like I'm really I don't give a shit, but whatever. They think I'm mad about it, so that's
yeah,
good. So, but just shit like that, you get feedback, and it's so you try to find, and I've enjoyed that from a creator standpoint.
mm,
Like as far as getting my creative juices, what can I come up with? Like, okay, here it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to talk about this Link Gates autograph card that I have. Okay, do I have a Link Gates story for you? And then I tell the story, right? So, but it's like it's that constant, it's that creation, and it's like kind of gives you like you have to come up with every week. You have to come up with you have to write a new story every week, and I think it's hard, really hard to come up with stuff. And some, like I said, sometimes it doesn't work, but and I got to come up with at least an hour of stuff, original content every week. And I've done it for 488 episodes, original content. So it's like, it's hard. And it's like, but it's the challenge of it too that I like. I like, I almost like coming down here with like nothing and just like start looking around like, okay, what can I talk about? And like something will catch my eye. And it's like, oh yeah. So now all of a sudden I'll get on the internet and look it up. Like when I got back from Las Vegas, Golden Knights shit everywhere. And you'd always tell these people, oh yeah, once hockey came to Vegas, yeah, it blew up. Well, hockey's been in Vegas since the 40s. Golden Knights didn't bring hockey to professional hockey to Las Vegas. So I did the
no,
history of Vegas hockey. There's people like,
oh,
I
that's
never knew
awesome.
about any of that shit, right? And it's
Yeah,
like the IHL with the Thunder and stuff. But
yeah,
before
yeah,
then, you know, and I'm like, a friend of mine played on a team there, the Las Vegas Ice Dice. They're like, what the hell's that? And I'm like, oh, it was some minor league that lasted 1 year. But he had some great stories and stuff. But so it's like shit like that. And it's always a bat like just to come up with stuff. And like in the truck when I'm driving and stuff, every once in a while, like, oh, I'll pull over, grab the sticky note, write it down. And I have bullet points written down. And I stick it
yeah,
on the truck. And then at the end of the week, I take the note home with me. Because I'm going to record Friday night or Saturday night. And I stick the sticky note here, and it's just bullet points But from there might be 7 bullet points on there, but I can get an hour out of that.
Yeah.
Because as you can tell now, I could just get going and start talking. But it's like you do some research on the internet and then just fill in the blanks. And I think that's been the real fun part. And I would think now, if I could go back and I'm starting the fourth line voice now, I probably actually wouldn't even really do interviews because they've been
Mm-hmm.
nothing but a pain in the ass, to be honest. Like that's where all my frustration with the show has been through interviews and
Mm-hmm.
trying to set shit up and getting ghosted and everything else. And it's just like, it's just not worth the hassle a lot of times. So it's like, but I've met great guys. And like I said, I've had way more better interviews than bad experiences, but you remember the bad ones. I can tell you, more than the good ones sometimes. It's like the reviews. You have a million people say great things about the show. Oh, I can quote you verbatim the hate emails I've gotten about my show. I
Yeah.
remember every one of those. So, and I think it's the same thing. You remember the real shitty interviews, you forget about the good ones sometimes. But
Yeah.
the interviews that I think I've enjoyed the most, and that was the other thing that I changed to. I'm like, I get tired of interviewing players. I'm like, well, what about fans? That's what I am. Let's start interviewing fight fans. So
Yeah.
then I got Joe Lazito on. I had Nick Vivoni on. I had all these
Mm-hmm.
guys on because all these guys come from different areas of the country. So their
Mm-hmm.
experience with hockey is different. Like you grew up in Portland. You're a Winterhawks guy. Well, this other guy grew up in St. Louis. He's a Blues guy. Doesn't know anything about the Western Hockey League. That's all right. He's a Blues guy. Interviewed some guy in Ontario, in London. Well, he's a London Knights guy. Oh, I remember
Mm-hmm.
when Shanahan played for the Knights and Greg Smith, and he talks about all those crazy OHL brawls in the '80s, like I talk about the old WHL brawls in the '80s.
Yeah.
So you find people from different areas, and everyone's got a story. And the best thing about interviewing fight fans, motherfuckers are on time every time because they're
Yeah.
just I can't. You want me on your podcast? Yeah. Oh yeah. What are we going to talk about? Where are you from? And I know you're a Peterborough guy. Yeah. Let's talk about the Pete's. What do you want to know? Tell me your
Yeah.
5 toughest Pete's of all time. We'll see you on Tuesday. Oh yeah. And they're going to tell all their buddies. Oh, I'm on this podcast. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I don't know why he wants to talk to me. Those have been the best interviews because they're right 7 o'clock. That dude's ready. He's ready to
Yeah.
go because he's been thinking about this for a week, and
Right.
he's got his list ready, and he's good to go, and he'll tell some great stories. Everyone, I had a couple, but every fan that I've had on has been awesome. Been an awesome interview. And now maybe some people listen and be like, whatever. I had fun with it
Mm-hmm.
because I think their enthusiasm for it got me enthusiastic again,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
they're just happy, like, oh, because it's the same thing. Well, I listen to your show all the time. Why would you have me on? I can't believe you're having me on. I'm like, well, you're
Yeah.
a fan just like I am. Let's talk about it. And then I started doing this other thing called the 10 rapid fire questions. There's nothing really rapid about it, but it's like 10 questions. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay. Question 1, who's your favorite enforcer and why? Question 2, who do you hate and why? Who did you do a 180 on? If you could go, who's your enforcer Mount Rushmore? All this bullshit. But 10 questions. And that's actually been really popular with people. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, we'll put it that way. But I've met a lot of really cool people that I never would have without this show. Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, and I think it always comes through to, like you said, with the, in the hockey sense of it, it's like, when you're a fan, people can tell, right? Because yeah, I'm the fan asking what I think other fans want to know, right? Because that's what I am, right? So it's like I come from that, like, okay, if I have Twist on, what am I going to ask him about, right? Or whatever, whoever it may be, it's like, okay, well, we all watch the DVDs, or the VHS tapes in our case, and then the DVDs and then whatever, but we all watch that stuff. And we were all on Fried Chicken arguing about this fight and that fight and whatever. Well, those are the fights I'm going to ask him about. Ryan Whitney and Bissonnette aren't going to ask that guy about those fights. They don't know about those fights. So it's like I come from that hardcore fan side of things. And I always say in all my player interviews, I always want to ask them a question that they've never been asked before. That's always been my goal, is to like get that at least one unique question that no one's asked them, right? And
That's awesome.
I mean, with the NHL guys, I mean, the other guys, whatever, but an NHL guy, like when I had Odgers on, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask him something that no one's ever asked him. That's been my goal, and it's worked out. Yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I just, and like what you're doing. I respect so much what you're doing, and other small like niche podcasters where, like I said, anybody can, I don't know, whatever, go, was that the New Westminster Dog Show or whatever? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, well, everybody could go on the New West podcast. Well, okay, well, I mean, there's probably 50 of those, right? But it's like you found your niche, right? And to me, that's so much. I don't know. To me, it's so much harder because you're on your own island, right? And like I said, you're and same with me, right? Who am I? So we started from, and now, and it's our growth. It's up to us, right? So
Yeah.
I have so much respect for people that, they start their own thing and just from scratch, and with you know and hustle, man. And it's just yeah, because I've like I said, I just really appreciate the art of it, and the content creation, and just the
Mm.
passion that comes with it for people. And like I said, and you can, like I said, you can tell the people that give a shit about it, and the other ones that are just doing it on a Sunday afternoon and they don't really care,
Mhm.
and whatever. If that's fine too. I'm not, but I'm not going to listen to it. But it's like, but the people that want to actually make a difference in the community that they're talking about, to me, that's and it's hard, and I know how hard it is. So that's why I respect those people that do that, like yourself, and a guy like Isha and stuff, that's starting an MMA thing and stuff, and he's doing his own thing. And it's, and he's not, I do MMA, so right away it's like, oh, what UFC guys are on. He hates the UFC. He's talking about the lower shit in Japan and like Taiwan, like shit, no, local stuff in BC that people aren't talking about. That's what he's doing. And yeah, it's been slow growth. He's doing good now, but it's like, but I always respected Isha for doing that, right? Like you went and he did the smaller thing. I always said, like with junior minor league hockey, that was always my niche.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about the NHL. They don't need me talking about it too. I don't give a shit about it. So it was like I wanted to do that. So I've always have kind of a special fondness for people that start something from scratch in their own unique, on their own little island, and they're trying to grow from there. I mean, because it is very hard. And yeah, anytime, if I have a piece of advice that maybe I think might help or whatever, I always try to, help out people or other guys that have like started a podcast. It's like,
Mhm.
if they need me to come on, I'll come on, right? Like, if that's, again, I'll be your ratings booster, like I'm not saying that, but it's like I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to get guests,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then, so it's like, yeah, I always try to help out, because what is it? The rising tide raises all ships, right? So I think if you have to help out your community, and like I think we're all, as small podcasters, like mom and pop stores, so to speak, I think we all have to help each other in whatever community you're in. Now, the other thing I have discovered, greasy pot in the podcast community, man. There are people that will backstab and everything else, and try to cut your legs out for, I don't know why. I don't know why they think that's going to get them anywhere, but so there's that's been a learning experience too throughout the years. But no, I think at the end of the day, it's anytime you can help out or give an advice, or is always a positive, because it's hard. It's a grind. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's like you're throwing sand into the ocean, right? So it's like it's hard because everyone, their dog is a podcast now, and it's like, so to try to stand out and be unique and find your voice in the sea is hard. So if I can help someone find a voice, or get them a few extra listens or a few subscribers, then, if we all did that for each other, it'd be a lot it'd be a lot better. But It's a process.
Yeah. So,
I'm gonna get you on. I'm gonna do 10 rapid fire questions with you on the fourth line voice.
oh man,
Yeah.
you got it. Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna be the first guy to drop Nevin Marquardt on the podcast. I know it. I'm looking at you. I can tell you right now you're gonna say
Nevin Markler. There you go.
it.
Yeah, that guy was a. But boy, man, you look back in the early '80s. That guy was tough as nails, bro. He was.
Guy'd be King Kong if he played now. That's the funny thing. Back
Oh
then
yeah,
he was like a number 4. Yeah, but terrible bucket, but ran around like a crazy man. He's a
yeah.
Saskatchewan. He's from played for Regina. I remember from the Western League, man. He was nuts out here too. Yeah, I
Well,
love Nevin Marquardt.
of course, he was from the Western League, man. He talk about like hockey tough. It's God's country for tough guys. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
Saskatchewan. Holy shit! You know, you guys got a endless supply of rugged individuals. It's got to be the farm country, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, and I got really lucky being in Saskatoon because our alumni is crazy when you look at the toughness
Oh
that
my
we've had in
god!
Saskatoon. So I grew up with it, right? You watch all these guys, and it's just like this steady stream, right? It was like, yeah, yeah. So there was never and the other, and thinking about it, I always say with Saskatoon, which was cool at the time, was we always had really pro fight media too. So
Yeah.
you never had a guy whining about it on or in the paper.
No.
Oh, isn't this terrible? No, they were all into it and stuff. So, oh yeah, it was definitely pro fight country in Saskatoon with the Blades, and actually pretty much out west back then in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Thunderdome out here for sure. We saw some crazy shit for sure.
What was here's a question. What was one tough guy that you wish that would have gotten a shot in the big show that maybe not have even gotten a whole lot of play in the minors, but in juniors was fun to watch.
Um, oh, I wish he had gotten more time in the NHL. Was Rocky Thompson? That's who I really wish because I watched him Medicine Hat and whatever. And of course, Mel Engelstad. I wish he had gotten more time. And he got the one game in Washington, but I wish he had got more time. But one guy that I always talk about in the Western League, and I brought him up in my show a million times, and he never played 3 years as junior, and that was it. Went back to the farm and whatever. This guy named Matt Sommerfeld.
Yeah.
And yeah, he played in Tri Cities for a little bit. He played in Swift Current for 2 years and then got traded to Tri City for a year. He had like 30 fights every year, fought everybody. McIntyre. He fought McIntyre like 7 times. Stuff like that. And like Morasti a bunch of times. Like, oh, he's just a tough dude. Bugard a bunch of times. And like, yeah, and then it was just done and went back to the farm. And I know it's around here in Saskatchewan somewhere. I'd love to get a hold of him and interview him. But yeah, that's one guy I bring up on the show all the time. And I try to upload as many of his fight. Not that it's hard back then because there wasn't that much footage back then, but the footage I do have, I try to get up on YouTube, and I try to tell all my listeners to go watch him because it's like he's one of the. There was so many guys back then that were just like junior heavyweights that just never went on anywhere. Or they just didn't. Or they just couldn't. They weren't good enough skaters or whatever, and they just whatever. They were there to thump. They were there to thump, and then that was it. Now they're driving the forklift to Costco. But little do you know, this guy had like 100 fights in the Western League, right? I mean, I know it, but people at Costco don't know it, right? So, I was gonna say one little quick thing before we go. That's been the real fun part with the YouTube stuff that I've especially putting up the videos that I put up. Like I'll put up like Junior A fights. It's like, who the hell is Junior A fights? Just me, right? Like some fight nerd over here. But I got more than once I've gotten a message from a guy, and I ended up getting a bunch of BC Junior A League stuff, BC from the 90s, mid 90s BCHL footage.
Oh
And
man.
I started putting them up. And like none of these guys, a couple guys played in the minors and stuff, but for the most part,
Mhm.
But I just started putting, like, I'd just scrolling through the disc and I'd find a good fight and I'd upload it. Well, this guy got a hold of me and he's like, dude, I can't thank you enough for putting that fight up because now, he's 45 years old, sells used Toyotas in Kelowna, BC, bald, put on 50 pounds, but and his kids, he's got young kids. And he'd be like, oh, back in my day, boy, you should have seen when we played, uphill both ways, that shit, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the kids are in the back. Oh, sure,
Yeah.
Dad. Yeah, right. Well, here's video proof now. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah? look at this. And they're, first of all, they're like, they can't believe their dad has a mullet because it's 1993. Like, dad had hair,
Yeah.
because he's 18. And this dude was the kingpin of the BC League. And
Oh
their
wow.
kids are watching it like, look at holy, and their dad's just kicking the shit out of some guy, center ice in Chilliwack, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
so he goes, oh yeah, my kid will take his phone to school, and he's showing the other kids on the playground, like, you know what, my dad really could kick your dad's ass,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's like, and that never would have happened without that video. And I ended up getting, like, it was the Chilliwack Chiefs, like, I think it was like 96, 97 team fight DVD. It's like an hour and a half long. It's just fight after fight after fight. And I think they had like 150 fights that year. And I don't even know who I got it from. But anyway, I got it. It's actually really picture clear quality for the time and everything, especially for junior A hockey.
Yeah.
And Chilliwack every year has like their alumni golf tournament. And the couple of the guys listens to the show, and the one guy followed me, and I told him, I was like, yeah, you play for Chilliwack. And he's like, oh yeah, we're doing a golf tournament every year. And I said, well, check that. What's your address? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, give me your mailing address. I sent him the copy of the DVD. Guy lost his mind.
Yeah.
So he goes, oh, so at the alumni, of course, they go and golf 18. Everybody's drinking and shit. They go back and have this big barbecue. This dude rolls out the TV and the DVD player, and they're all like, what's this? He goes, boys, and he puts it in. They lost their minds.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because where would they have ever seen this? And they're all just glued to the screen for an hour and a half, just drinking beers. And they're, oh, remember this fight? Yeah, I remember this fight. This is when Maisie killed this guy. And they rewind it. And like, oh, yeah. They all wanted copies of the DVD. And so, point of the story is to be able to help people like that. That's why I upload the fights to YouTube. It wasn't about getting views or monetized, and that was a nice benefit of it. But if I can help out somebody to show his kid that dad actually could play hockey and was an athlete at one time, and because like, it's one thing if the guy went on the NHL and shit. Well, yeah, okay, whatever. But if it's junior A footage or minor, especially how hard it is with footage. That footage isn't out there, man. That's hard shit to find. That 80s, 90s. I wish that there was a string of Portland DVDs from back in the day, but there isn't. And that was the thing. Like, I remember Cale Hulse, him and I talked quite a bit on Twitter, and I would upload Cale Hulse's Portland fights that I had. He didn't have any of them. He loved it watching that shit. He'd tell me stories about fighting Kevin Sawyer and shit. And oh, it was great. Yeah. And this guy played 700 games in the NHL, married a Baywatch model and Baywatch chick, and he's living the life, right? But here I am, little old Darren in Saskatoon, and I got Cale Hulse riveted to YouTube watching his Portland fights, right? So, to be able to help guys out and and show their kids or their wife or their girlfriend or their buddies, or to show the alumni guys, their fights from back in the day, that makes all the bullshit worth it to help people like that. And the other good thing I was going to say when I have guys from junior on and stuff, it's been really cool to be a conduit to make a connection with those guys. Like, I had about a couple of months back, I had Mark Rader on, former Blades defenseman, and he said it on the show, so I'm not talking out of school, but he's had some tough times after, and a little rough go here in life and stuff. But he did the show, and it got really well received. All of a sudden, I started getting, hey man, you got Mark's number? And it was like Clark Wilm wanted his number, and like old Blades guys that he played with and old teammates, and he got a hold of me like about a month later, and he said, you wouldn't believe the amount of guys that have reached out and I've reconnected with. And he was out for supper with one guy that was coming through Alberta there, and he went to Edmonton and met a guy, and they hung out and had supper and like caught up on old times. And so to be that and it wouldn't have happened without the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes, for all the yelling and get mad at guys and stuff not showing up, and you get frustrated and stuff, when you hear that stuff from something that you did, and you could help with that, and you could help facilitate that meeting and that reconnection with people. And a lot of these, and there's a bunch of these guys that need that. They're going through some shit, right? And like, they just need that. And so to be able to be a part of that and to help out in your own little way, and and with the mental health stuff and stuff like that, and a lot of guys just to have that connection again with people that they've lost, and then now they can reconnect with. I mean, that's what as a podcaster, what more can you want from that, is to build relationships or rekindle relationships, and and create new ones and foster old ones and stuff. So I mean, that's what it's all about. So to be able to be a part of that in my own little way, and be able to be a platform for that is yeah, that makes a lot of all the researching and some sleepless nights and the odd chair flip when I'm annoyed worth it when stuff like that happens. So when
Yeah.
you hear those real positive stories,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's really cool. And then to go back to the beginning, right, when you're just some guy that went and bought a Staples microphone and all right, let's try this, plug it in, let's go, and
Yeah.
to come that far and to have that now and get the respect of the players. That's the big one too. You have the respect from them, and I've heard that from a lot of them, and they respect what I do, and I've give them a voice, the fourth line voice, and so to have the players respect is that's a real special thing too. So
Yeah, 100%, and that's always the vibe that I've got. Like you're not making a mockery out of it; you're celebrating
you know,
it, and I think that everybody that listens to that style podcast and yours in particular needs to realize, like, this is part of our culture. You know what I mean? In the
yeah,
hockey culture, and you're sharing something that's it's becoming a relic, and it's pretty much dead and gone. So you're keeping it alive in a lot of ways, in my opinion, and I think it's needed. You know what I mean? It's needed,
yeah.
and yeah,
Well, and I think the big thing is, and like people always, oh, you're just promoting violence. It's more than that. It's like, no, I'm not promoting violence. First of all, I hate violence. I appall it, but that's not what this is about. It's a part of the game that's needed, and it's about policing the game and accountability, which sorely lacks in today's game. But whatever. Besides all that, I'm like, no, it's a place for these guys to have like I said, to have a voice. Because I said for the longest time, it's like now I think nowadays it's almost like the media, they want to, oh, we put that in the closet. We don't talk about that's hockey start time. We don't talk about stuff like that. Because after the Bugard thing and the Belak thing and Ripon and all that, they don't like CTE and all that stuff. And it's like it's become this taboo subject. And it's like, no, it's like I think it needs to be out there more. And I think it's not just the fight. Yeah, okay, we're fight fans. We put on the videos. We like watching the toe to toe stuff and everything else. But it's also I think fans, like even fight fans and everything, they don't understand the mental grind that goes into it with these guys and what they went through mentally. And like I said, I had friends that did it. I never played at a high enough level, but I've had friends that did it. My brother did it, played junior hockey, played college hockey. He was a fighter, not a goon, but I mean, he fought 50 or 60 times in his career. And he was a captain and an all-star, but that's late 90s. That's just what you did. It was Thunderdome, man. You just had to. You played tough. You were going to get into fights. So I saw what it did to him mentally and what he had to go through and stuff. And I think people don't understand that, how hard it is for these guys, the mental aspect of it. And when I interview these guys, yeah, we talk about the good fights and all that and who was the toughest guy and all that stuff. We try to get into their head too about like, what was it like? What was it like to, like I said, a lot of people, the one thing people can relate to, okay, it's like that movie at 3 o'clock high. Okay, so let's say at 9 o'clock in the morning, the school bully bumps into you and says, okay, at 3 o'clock, you and me behind the parking lot, we're fighting. What's your day like from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock? It's awful. That
yeah,
anxiety building, the mental anguish, and you're glaring at the clock and it like, and the stress level and the anxiety level is through the roof. Well, a lot of people have gone through that in their life. You're going to have a fight after school, and you're just that you can't concentrate on your homework. You're on your work, what the teacher's saying, or what anybody. You're not concentrating. All you're focusing on is that guy that you have to fight at 3 o'clock. I said, imagine doing that for an 82 game hockey schedule. Like, yo, I got to go to Joe Louis tomorrow. Oh, great, Koser and Probert are there. Oh, awesome. Now I got to go to Chicago. Oh, Grimson and Peluso are waiting for me. Sweet. The St. Louis Twist is waiting. Oh, and I pissed him off because I cross-checked him in the head last game, so I know he's going to want to fight me. And my hand's blown up. I can't fight now, or I have to fight him. My hand's half broken. Like, you know what I mean? It's like people don't think of that stuff. And then it's like, oh, I didn't fight him. He's a pussy. That's why. Is that why? Like, there's so much that goes into the game, right? That I don't think people think about, right? But the mental side of it is, I couldn't imagine going through that game after game, year after year, and you're constantly on the bubble. Your job is never secure. You're always if they're going to make a cut or they're going to make a trade, you're first, right? Because and you're always the anxiety of it all. It's just it fascinates me, but it makes me sad. It fascinates me at the same time. It's like I want
Yeah.
to talk to these guys about it, and then yeah, and the pressure that goes into it, and like winning and losing, and you're fighting in front of 20,000 people, let alone who's watching on TV. What are you getting knocked out? Shit, do you feel like do you feel like an asshole? Are you embarrassed? Are you like what and just shit like that. So I think getting deep into that, and I think and respecting the players enough to share that and tell people like, well, this is what's going on. Like this is what these guys are going through. To go back to, I think that's why a lot of the players respect the podcast because they're not just he was a punching bag. Wow, first of all, who are you? How
Yeah.
many fights you ever been in? Like like have some respect for the athlete, right? Yeah, some guys are better than others, and I think this guy beat that guy. Well, that's not being, but I don't think you have to be disrespectful to anybody. Show some respect, right? So I think the players respect that I do that. Like I don't shit talk guys and anything like that. I respect the role, everybody that did it, because it's the hardest job in sports. That's the other thing. To me, it is the hardest job in sports is to be a hockey enforcer. So yeah, and I think they respect that I give them the platform to tell that story, and then I also defend that story. So
Yeah. Yeah. For people who don't understand hockey culture, some of these guys that are on the bubble, one lost fight can mean back to the
yeah,
minors.
yeah,
Especially if you're in the home arena or it's a big game and it's supposed to be a tough game and the other guy is you're there for that guy for that reason and then you get your butt whooped. It say la vie, back to the grind, back on the
yeah,
bus, and the amount of pressure that a lot of those guys have because of that, because they work their whole life towards one thing and they literally fight their way to the top. They don't score, they don't, you know what I mean? Their
yeah,
life isn't handled like the superstars are. These guys are in the grind doing the real jobs and
yeah,
protecting those guys that make the millions. And so, yeah, you could see it. You could see exactly what happens is like, one minute you're the hero, next minute you're the bum. Every
yeah,
night you could be either one of those, and you're on top of the world when you're the hero, and then you're in the bottom when you're the bum, and then you add your own personality quirks and mental health things to that. It just compounds it. And yeah, I was for me, I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I'm 51 years old, so I was going to the Winterhawk games in
there you go.
the early '80s, and so yeah, I was a huge hockey fan, and um, you know, it, being an American kid from working class backgrounds, it wasn't in the cards to play. It was, but even back then was super expensive, and so there was only one little league in close to my area, and
Yeah,
it just wasn't a thing. But we were I spearheaded a lot of things, playing street hockey, and then we ended up right before a bunch of the boys and I who grew up graduated, and we were playing ball hockey. There was a pretty prominent ball hockey league out here or in Portland.
yeah,
Uh, and so that was kind of fun. I played that for several years and kind of got my hockey kick through that. But yeah, I had the Hockey Digest. I was one of the magazines I've subscribed to, and I remember flipping through, and then the back of the Hockey
yeah,
Digest it said hockey fight tapes, and I was like, "Holy shit, what is this?"
yeah.
And I
What
was,
was the first? What was the first tape you bought? Bruise Brothers.
no, I didn't. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
Here's the crazy thing. It was the Boston Bruins. It was a Boston Bruins, a couple of Boston Bruins seasons, and Seattle Thunderbirds.
there you go.
And what I
Yeah.
did was a guy from Boston, I think the Boston area, and I didn't have cash, but I did have hockey cards. So he was one of those guys that say, "Hey, I'll trade for hockey cards," and I gave him a list of my hockey cards, and he probably screwed me over quite well, but I
Was
didn't
his
care. I got those tapes, and once I got those tapes, it was done.
Yeah,
It
was
was
his
done.
name Nick Vavonia? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to trade with the guy a lot, Nick Vavona. No, he was God, I can't remember his name. He wasn't. He started getting out of it when I got into it. Really, I think he pissed a lot of people off because he wasn't a very open trader. He was more about what he can get out of it. So
Yeah.
people kind of stayed away from him. But he did have some really good Boston Bruins seasons, and then he had the Seattle Thunderbird seasons, and oh man, I popped those in because I'm a big Western Hockey League guy.
Yep.
That's my league besides the NHL, of course, and so I was pumped to see that. I mean, I just you know, um, but yeah, I
Well,
started trading tapes, and
yeah.
I started collect. I mean, I just ramped it up really quick, and I got to trade with a lot of guys. Nick Vavona is one of them, and
Yeah.
then another guy out in Buffalo, and a kid from Vancouver, and just everywhere. I started trading tapes, and then I got a hold of the guy that actually made the Seattle Thunderbird tapes, and because he had a connection with the tape guy in Seattle, that's
Yep.
how he got all those game tapes. And so I was once I got a hold of that connection, I was so enthralled. He was a real nice guy too, because he would give up tapes. He said, just send me whatever, you know, I don't want anything right now, but if I do, I'll hit you up." He was that kind of guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, then life happens, and you get older, and I didn't have as much time on my hands and had to face the real world. But yeah, I just remember those early '90s to mid to late night. I think '97 was probably when I fully gave it up. But from like '91 to '97, I was full throttle.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I
that
was.
was the cool thing with Seattle. They were like one of the few teams that like, had broadcast footage and it was like announcers and it was like really clean. And I mean, I
Yeah,
got some porn stuff too, but it's like all like camcorder stuff and it's like, and it's pretty, some of it's actually in pretty good shape, but it was like fucking Kale Halls and like Brad Symes just kicking the shit out of people at Dead Marsh and shit. And like
yeah,
Brad
yeah,
Symes was fucking awesome. He was like my favorite. I love Brad Symes. He was my favorite.
yeah,
Him and Kale Halls were just killers, and
yeah,
it's like, yeah, the Seattle, but Seattle, well, that was a thing like out west, like there's so many tough guys, like Seattle just every year had guys, Kazoka and Shaw and all those guys and Paul Ferrone and, and, and then Tri Cities, they get Terry Ryan's out there and all that, and yeah, I mean, yeah, man, the Western League was so good, yeah, back then in the '90s, because yeah, you and I are the same age, so being here in Saskatoon, of course, I grew up on the Blades, right? So
yeah,
Wade Belak and all them, and it was just like well, Tony Twist and Kelly Chase and Dave Brown and Koser and all them back in the day, and and Wendell Clark and yeah, so it was. Yeah, the Western League, man, back then it really was the Wild West back then. Pop the helmets and go to center ice and square off, and yeah, there was tough
yeah.
guys.
I'll tell you what, man. I remember. I remember going to because they just play twice a year, one home and home. The Eastern League and the Western League and the WHL, and so I
Yeah,
remember hearing about Twist and Chase, mainly about Twist, and
yeah,
everybody was like, "Holy shit, you got to watch this guy. He's crazy." And so I remember watching him. He was a man amongst boys there for sure. Um,
yeah,
and then Wade Belak, he was scary.
yeah,
I I had tickets pretty close up to the ice, and I just remember, oh, that guy's gonna play in the league. He was just imposing.
yeah,
Yeah. And then what was McAllister was on his other
yeah,
side.
yeah,
God
yeah,
damn, those guys were tougher than nails. Yeah, I remember that. Uh, yeah, well, I I hated Seattle because you had to when you're from Portland, but I just remember just really liking guys like Gary Grant. I think he
Yeah,
only played one season,
yeah,
he was scary. I remember him just beating the shit out of Clouston in Portland one year, and I was like, oh my god, that guy, he was good. And then one of the best fights I've ever seen. I had it recorded, but I don't know where that tape is. All that stuff's long gone. But Greg Gatto and Dodie Wood almost at center ice in Portland. One of the best fights I've seen live. But I was at the game where Dale Puritan and Brad Symes went at it.
yeah.
Did you hear about that little story where Puritan ended up getting suspended after that game?
No.
He put tough skin. They put tough skin
Oh, yeah,
on his fist,
yeah,
and so
yeah,
I remember afterwards, is it was a good battle. I
yeah.
I thought Symes might have edged it, but if not, it was close. But I just remember Symes going to the locker room, and his face was like a road rash. I'm like, what the hell happened there? Was that like a shirt, a jersey rash or something? Turns out it was a match penalty because they found out he had tough skin on his fist.
That's funny you mentioned that fight. That was the very first fight I ever uploaded onto my YouTube channel was
Was it really?
Symes and Puritan. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the first fight I ever put on my YouTube channel. Yeah, pure. A lot of people hate him. I liked Puritan. I mean, he was an asshole though, but I mean, cheap as shit and stuff. But it was like he's a tough dude, man. I always say with Puritan, I said, unfortunately for Dale, I think he came along a decade too late. If he had played in the 80s, he would have had a 15-year career because he would have
I
just fit right in the NHL. But by
yeah.
the time he got there in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were, although they were still crazy guys, they weren't putting up with his shit that much. And it was like,
No.
and he was kind of slow. And it was just like, he was a good AHL guy. Like he played in the minors for a long time. But yeah, if he had come in the 80s, he would have played in the NHL for sure. He's a big dude. And
Yeah.
yeah, he's a tough guy. I mean, he gets a lot of shit. But I mean, but yeah, if there was any chance that he'd sucker you or thumb you in the eye or fit, he didn't give a shit. It's, well, it's like, well, you would have seen how many times you see Toporowski play in Spokane. I mean,
Oh God, that guy! I loved when he came to town. I
yeah,
loved.
well, there, right there is the perfect
Yeah.
example of just like
Yeah.
crazy minor league guy, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, a junior. I mean, I still laugh on my live stream when I play that Memorial Cup brawl that Spokane had with Chicoutimi, and they just kicked the shit out of the French guys. And Toporowski thumbs the guy in the eye, and he's elbow dropping him. And I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that was like 1990 when that happened, but I play it on my live stream now, and it's funny with like the younger generation watching it, like the people that were born in 2000. They
Yeah.
just watch that, and, like they can't believe like what is this? And like that's why I always laugh when I like see these kids now or these people talking about, oh, he's crazy in the suspension. I'm like, I said, are you serious? I'm like, we used to call that Tuesday. Like, I mean, I don't know what you guys, they get so worked up over nothing. And I'm like, oh, this shit happened all the time. And like, but now it's like, oh, it's the end of the world and these guys are crazy. And I'm like, none of these guys that are playing now are crazy. Like, they're not. I mean, there are some tough guys that still play, like Reeves, and those guys are tough, but it's like, there was 100 Ryan Reeveses, back then. It's like, every team had 3 and 4 of those guys. So, so I mean, she's a different hockey world these days. I don't know. I always laugh. I tell people I have 2 hockey podcasts and I don't watch hockey, so it's kind of crazy. But I talk about the old shit. That's all.
Yeah, it's funny. I still watch the game. I still love it because I like the skilled stuff as well. But it's definitely not the same. And when I tell the younger guys and people like my brother-in-law, he didn't grow up going to the games or nothing like that. And so now the Kraken, we're up in the Seattle area now.
Mm-hmm.
When the Kraken moved in, he's gone to a few games and he's starting to understand the game a little bit better. And yeah, even explaining to him, I was like, this is like we saw a couple of games with a couple of scraps, and I said these guys, they're trying, good for them, they're trying,
Yeah.
but they can't fight. It's just
No.
not in them. You could tell that it's like they don't have that, lack of a better term, that killer instinct, and then they just don't have the skill that the
No,
guys.
they didn't grow up with it. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
That's what I always say on my show, right? These guys will fight, but they're not fighters.
no.
And
No.
it's like, well, I said that's the thing at junior and shit. Like you talked about Belak or Hulse or Symes or these guys. Well, these guys had like 60, 70, 80 fights by the time they were out of junior turning pro. Most of
Yep.
these kids, they won't have 60 fights in their life. And like all these junior, well, the WHL doesn't, but the rest of them all have fight limits and stuff. Like I think you can't even fight in the queue when you get suspended for a game, and OHL's like 3, junior A's 3, and then they're, hell, even the American League's 10. It's like, so you have fight limits now. The Western League does. I mean, the Western League doesn't have fight limits, but it's like, I mean, it's nothing like, not even close to anything that it was, but yeah, no, they're not battle ready anymore. Like they don't come in hardened and stuff. Like a lot of these guys are learning to fight in pro,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just like, well, like you see a guy like Matt Rempe. I mean, he's basically learning on the job, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
he fought a little bit in Seattle, but not kinda. But he just realized when he got to he's big, and it's like, well, and I'm in the Rangers farm system, and they don't have anybody, and I'm 6'8", so all right, I'll just start fighting. And it's
Yeah.
like, and I give the kid credit. I mean, he takes a lot of shit online from people, but it's like, you know, you, he's not as bad as everybody they make him out to be. He's not that bad, but
No.
it's one of those things. It's a work in progress. Plus that, and it's like he needs to learn how to fight like a big man. He fights like he's 6 feet tall. That's the problem. When he grabs people, he leans in. It's like, kid,
Yeah.
you're 6'8", lean back. They can't reach you, man. You're the tallest.
Yeah.
No one's gonna hit you, but he leans in and he just gets caught. He could take it. He stands there and takes it, but he's willing. But it's just like, yeah. But he'll learn. I mean, they all did. Like McIntyre was the same thing, right? He had to learn how to fight like a big man, and all those guys do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he'll learn. But it's like, nowadays, are they going to give him enough time to let him learn? I mean, the Rangers might play him for another year or two, and then whatever. Who knows? I mean, maybe. I mean, at the same time, I mean, he's the only one that does it. So,
Yeah. 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 He's you're right. And then what I'm seeing too is I'm not as up on it as I used to be, but I do see the Russian guys, the Russian kids play with more of an edge. Those Eastern Europeans,
yeah,
and they seem to be kind of embracing that style of play. And when they get up there, uh, they're just a little more battle ready. Even on the just not even the fisticuff stuff, but the whole game period. They just seemed a little bit more. They play like men more than some of these kids out here that are still trying to fit into their own body and know
yeah.
how to use it and stuff. So it's an interesting uh, just watching what I do watch. Just seeing those kids from Europe kind of taking on the West, North American style game. It's interesting. And then we're taking on more of the European game.
Yeah, I mean they've softened it over here now, right? And then the other problem with hockey too is it's a rich white kid sport. So you don't have like the inner city shit, this farmers and stuff anymore playing because it's like they can't afford it. Who the hell can afford a $400 stick? It's like it's crazy now. It's so it's like rich kids don't want it as bad. So it's like and when Hockey Canada up here, it's like of course, as soon as Canada doesn't win gold in the World Juniors, it's panic. We're terrible, right? And then like, we got to change everything. We got to be more skills, but we're goons. Well, it's funny when we were air quote goons, we won all the time. Now we change it, we don't win anymore. It's like, well, yeah, because no, like you watch those team World Juniors now, Canada doesn't hit anybody anymore. And Canada used to just destroy people. They used to hit everybody, and it's like now they don't really hit. They don't take any of the big, and it's like I mean, everyone's so good. It's funny now. You watch it now; it's so cookie cutter, like because they're all the same. It's like they're all the same size. They can all do the same stuff, but no one hits. And it's just like I don't know. And it's just like I remember listening. Not that I listened to their show a lot because they're. But Spit and Chiglets was talking about that. And Ryan Whitney was talking about it. He was just like telling me, he goes, kid, if he goes, I can tell you now, he's like, if you want to make it, he goes, start hitting somebody, start hitting people. Because he goes, nobody hits. He goes, if you start playing physical and you add that to your game as well, he goes, you'll be in the NHL in no time making millions of dollars. Because he goes, nobody hits. And he goes, we're watching this junior stuff, and he's like, nothing. He goes, it is no one's aggressive, and he goes, but they all got great moves. They're all really fast. They all got great hands. They can sauce it, do everything like that, and they shoot at 100 miles an hour. And but he's just like, they're all 6 feet tall, 190 pounds, and like no one hits anybody. And it's just like, he goes, if you start playing physical and hitting guys, man, he goes, you could write your own ticket. But yeah, up here in Canada, they don't. I don't know. Nah, I'm not saying no one hit. I mean, there obviously there's a few guys still, but it's just like it just seems like they've gone really far, really gone away from that. But I like from growing up when we played to like you watch these kids now, like these kids now are unbelievable. Like the shit they can do and like their hands and how fast they are, and it's like, I mean, they do shit with the puck that we never dreamed of doing, right? Like it's like the talent level is unbelievable, but
Yeah,
yeah, they don't have the grit though, and it's just like,
yeah,
and God forbid if they ever actually fought, like they're not, I mean, they're gonna be guys in the NHL or they'll have played their whole career without a fight,
yeah,
which seems is just baffling to me. I'm not saying everybody has to fight, but I mean, Jesus, even Gretzky got into four. I'm not saying they were good, but he got into four. And it's just like, but yeah, but there's kids now. It's just like, again, it's like I get it, but and maybe if I had a parent, if I was a parent and had a kid playing, I mean, no parent wants to see their kid fighting anyway, but it's like, it, yeah, whatever. I could go on this tangent forever. I'll save that for my podcast. But yeah,
yeah,
it's a different hockey landscape these days. That's for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, it is, and when I do, like, when I was living in the Midwest there, I was living in the Kansas City area, so we would go to St. Louis, and that I just remember the couple of the games that I went to, watching a couple of guys that played with an edge, and I
Uh-huh.
just looked at them, and I was like, man, these, like this Walker kid. I think he's from Great Britain or whatever. I'm looking him up in Walker and say he played. Boy, he was just fun to watch. He's not the most talented guy, but he carries his own. He's another fast guy and everything, but he's undersized. But boy, he played like he was 6'2", 220. And I was just thinking how like crazy it was. But then I remember, in the late '80s, everybody played like that.
Yeah,
Even some of your
yeah,
skilled guys that never fought, they played with
yeah.
that little bit of edge. Um,
Well,
and
yeah, that was everybody hated everybody. You played for
yeah,
the logo. It's like now they're all bros, and I mean they don't
yeah,
even fight mean anymore. After the fight's done, they're bro hugging and congratulating each other. It's just like, what are we doing? It's like I never saw Twist or Probert congratulate anybody after a fight. Like it was just ridiculous. Now it's like I don't know. They make whatever. I said half the time they make fighting look so stupid. It's just like I don't know. If you're not even mad at, what'd you fight him for then?
yeah,
It's just like I don't know. And growing up, I've never understood this idea of like we're friends. Like I'm not your friend. Like I don't know why everyone has to. Oh, we gotta have respect. Why? Why do we have to have respect for the other? I don't give a shit about them. Like why? I don't. I'm not saying we gotta go out and try to injure everybody, but I mean we're playing and you get hurt.
yeah. You listen to those old school NFL guys talk about how disgusted they are about you know the prayer meeting before the game and
Yeah,
everything. He says, I don't care about you praying to your higher power. He says, but that guy wearing that other jersey is your enemy.
yeah.
You got a whole
Well, that was the
lifetime
thing.
when
Like
you
yeah,
retire
like I mean,
to
I
be
grew up.
friends with these guys.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Like, I mean, I
Yeah,
played against friends, and it was like, yeah, I'll be your friends before and after. I'm not your friend during. And if you're there to hit, I'm drilling you. I don't care. I'm going right through you. And it's just like, I don't know. And the same thing at football and everything else. It was just like, yeah, I mean, yeah, and like, well, that was the thing. Like, the best sport my best sport was baseball. Oddly enough, being in Western Canada, where we get snow 6 months a year. But I played but I watch it now and like they don't pitch inside. They don't hit anybody anymore. It's like back, man. Like, and these guys, bat flipping. It's 8-0. This guy's flipping his bat in June. It's like, are we serious here? The next guy up would just get drilled. Oh, no, they don't
yes.
do anything. And it's like,
Oh,
and it's just it baffles because it's like, yeah, you'd get it when I they drill you. If they didn't, you'd be talking to the pitcher after, like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you didn't do that shit. It was just like there's so many unwritten rules, and like they okay, boomer, you guys and your unwritten rules. Yeah, maybe, but we didn't act like donkeys though. Like these guys just act like buffoons now. I don't know. It's just donkey show. Everything's just look at me, and I don't know. But look at the 50-year-old man yelling at clouds right now. But it's just like, no, I don't know. I watch sports now, and it's just like I can't. Well, it's like a completely obviously different generation. I can't relate to them at all. And I watch now. Like I said, never knocked the athletes. They're great athletes, like way better. And I mean, obviously with the science and everything now, it's like tremendous. But yeah, just I don't know the way they act and carry themselves. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. It's a goof troop out there. I don't know. I don't get it, but you know,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely like you said, and I've said that a lot about all the sports exactly is that
yeah,
it's cookie cutter. It's just you're following a formula, you're following a script basically, and you just got it down to a T. And a lot of these kids are $1 million performance athletic training, and their machines, and obviously they didn't get their steroids from where Twist got them, probably in Mexico or whatever. But
yeah,
what I mean, these kids are just synthetic all the way through, and then the equipment is so much better, and it just adds to the the just lack of personality that you get. I just remember, like, just Glenn Goodall, you know,
yeah,
God, he was an asshole, just a
yeah,
cocky SOB, but he was so good and so fun to watch, and you loved hating him.
yeah,
And or just all these other guys. Like, I remember uh watching Gretzky's like, who's gonna hit this prick? He's skating around here like he's fucking on the ice capades, and hit him. You know what I mean? And but he was
mhm,
just so good and elusive, and he saw the action three steps ahead of everybody else, and that's why it just character players that you can't imagine. I mean, where are the Chris Nylands and the Jay Millers of the world? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
uh, Dave Brown, just making funny jokes on the bench, and you know Tim Hunter losing his mind. You just don't have that stuff anymore. These
No,
guys they're all curated, and they're like robots. Even when you listen to them talk off the ice, it's like they've they're really censored themselves a lot in not only in their play but in their
well, yeah.
personality. They
Yeah,
can't.
especially in hockey. Yeah, hockey's really that's always been the vanilla kind of sport too. It's always, the aw shucks and just happy to be here and one game at a time, get pucks deep. That's the typical interview, right? And it's just
Yeah,
like, I'll finish our checks, play, one period at a time. Oh yeah, it's like the old Bull Durham movie, right? The old
yeah,
here you gotta learn your cliches, right?
yeah.
Memorize them, love them, use them. They're your friends. That's exactly what it is. That's same thing. But every once in a while, you'll get a guy that colors outside of the lines, like Bissonnette or something like that, or Sean Avery, and I mean, and there's always been those guys too. But yeah, for the most part, though, yeah, I was one of the guys I was on his podcast recently. He's just kind of getting into the hockey thing, and I was just like, yeah, but he comes from a basketball background from New York, and I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get that out of these farm kids and from Western Canada. They're not going to talk like that. I said, you're not going to get that out of hockey guys. They're going to give you the most boring vanilla interviews. You'll have a couple guys, but overall, no, it's pretty. They don't say too much. So
I think more things like this could show people, hey, it's not about the wins and losses. It's the more I think out in the open, and the more that we talk about it, the better. The more
yeah,
that we try to sweep it under the rug, and the more we try to, like, minimize that part of the game or the people that have done that in the past, the more problems you're going to have in some regards,
yeah,
in my opinion. But
I
who
agree.
am I? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time and being a great interview, and like I said, let's be able to do this here
Oh yeah.
in the future, and